Most of us believe that heaven consists of 7 layers. This is what mainstream religions have taught for thousands of years. But what if I told you that the cosmic map is actually far vaster and far more terrifying than that? In a forgotten manuscript known as Two Enoch, the man who walked with God reveals a hidden truth. There are actually 10 dimensions of existence. And when Enoch crossed the boundary of the 7th layer, he entered a realm where human language becomes meaningless. There, in a haunting silence, Enoch witnessed sights never intended for mortal eyes. From the pitch-black prisons where fallen angels endure eternal punishment in chains of fire, to the moment he stood before the blazing throne of the Almighty, a splendor so overwhelming, it would make the very soul tremble. But here is the most controversial part. Why did Enoch describe a universe of only 7 heavens? In his first book, yet in this second manuscript, he insists on 10. Why were the final 3 heavens erased from history? Did the church deliberately hide them, banning the book entirely to keep it from the hands of the faithful? What did Enoch truly see at the edge of reality? Join us as we journey through the 10 heavens of Two Enoch and witness what lies beyond human comprehension. The Enigma of the Two Enochs. Why are there 2 different books of Enoch? Before we descend into the blazing heavens, we must ask a fundamental question. Why do 2 distinct manuscripts exist, both bearing the name of the man who walked with God and was then seen no more? In the Bible, Enoch appears only in a few brief verses in Genesis chapter 5. Yet outside the biblical canon, his name became the epicenter of a vast apocalyptic tradition spanning centuries. The first and most famous is the Book of Enoch, commonly known as First Enoch, or the Ethiopian Enoch. First Enoch was not written in a single moment. Scholars agree it is a compilation of various sections composed between the 3rd century before Christ and the 1st century before Christ. It was born during the Second Temple period, an era when the Jewish people lived under the crushing political weight of the Greek Empire and later the Roman Empire. Originally written in Hebrew or Aramaic, this was confirmed when fragments of First Enoch were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran in the 20th century. This discovery proves that First Enoch circulated widely among ancient Jewish communities, particularly the Essenes. The true author of First Enoch was not the Enoch of Genesis. This is a literary form known as pseudepigrapha, a common tradition in the ancient world in which a work was attributed to a holy figure in order to convey divine authority. This was not intended to mislead. Rather, it reflected how the ancients understood revelation. Throughout history, there have always been scribes who recorded the spirit of their age for future generations. They were witnesses of their time, men who saw violence spreading, corruption, deepening, foreign empires rising, and realities that modern minds can scarcely comprehend. They wrote not to invent myths, but to preserve meaning. It was in this crucible of political pressure and spiritual crisis that First Enoch was formed. Faith was being tested. The righteous were oppressed. The great question echoed through the land: where did this chaos come from? The answer, according to First Enoch, lies beyond human failure alone. The book declares that disorder began when the Watchers shattered the boundaries set by God. The most famous section, called the Book of the Watchers, tells of 200 fallen angels led by Semyaza and Azazel, who descended upon Mount Hermon. They took human daughters as wives and fathered the Nephilim giants, who filled the earth with violence. These Watchers taught humanity metallurgy, sorcery, astrology, and forms of knowledge that exceeded the limits appointed to mankind. As violence and moral corruption overflowed, God judged the world with the Great Flood. In First Enoch, the flood was not caused solely by human sin, but also by the unlawful intervention of rebellious angels. The book functions as an indictment. It places responsibility upon fallen spirits. It presents evil as a disruption of cosmic order. It speaks of judgment, of imprisoned angels, and of a final day when justice will be fully revealed. It is the voice of a generation watching its world fracture, searching for reassurance that history remains under divine authority. But history continued to unfold. The temple was destroyed in the year 70 after Christ. Jerusalem fell. Social and religious structures shifted profoundly. The Jewish people were scattered. Faith required strengthening in a different way. It was in this new and fragile world that another Enoch tradition emerged, Second Enoch, also known as the Book of the Secrets of Enoch. If First Enoch speaks primarily of fall and judgment, Second Enoch opens an entirely different vision. Here, Enoch does not stand in the midst of chaos. Instead, he is taken upward through 10 heavens. He sees structure. He sees celestial order. He sees where angels serve and where divine justice is established. In a time marked by devastation, this message carried profound reassurance that above earthly upheaval, order still reigns. That every action is recorded. That history is neither random nor abandoned. Unlike First Enoch, Second Enoch was not discovered among the Hebrew manuscripts at Qumran. Every surviving copy comes from Old Church Slavonic manuscripts preserved in Russia and the Balkans between the 10th and 15th centuries. This demonstrates that the tradition traveled far from its original geographic setting. Most scholars believe Second Enoch was composed in the 1st century after Christ, possibly in Egypt or within a Hellenistic Jewish community. The original text was likely written in Greek and later translated into Slavonic as Christianity spread into Eastern Europe. The Greek original has been lost. Only the Slavonic textual tradition remains. This is what makes Second Enoch so remarkable. An ancient Jewish work containing detailed descriptions of the heavenly realms was preserved not in Jerusalem or Antioch, but in remote Orthodox monasteries of Eastern Europe. The content differs significantly from First Enoch. In Second Enoch, 2 angels escort Enoch upward through 10 heavens. In the first heaven, he sees the treasuries of snow and rain. In the middle heavens, he witnesses imprisoned fallen angels, souls awaiting judgment, and celestial bodies moving according to divine command. In the highest heaven, he stands before the glorious presence of the Almighty. There, Enoch receives instruction concerning the structure of the universe, the creation of Adam, and the moral responsibility of humanity. He is transformed, anointed, and appointed as a righteous scribe on behalf of mankind. Where First Enoch emphasizes rebellion and punishment, Second Enoch emphasizes order and holiness. Where the first focuses on the sin of angels, the second focuses on the elevation of a faithful man. And here the question deepens. Why was the account of 10 heavens not preserved within mainstream Judaism? Why did it move across linguistic and cultural boundaries into the Slavonic world as though safeguarded in distant lands? Some scholars suggest that certain theological elements did not align with later canonical standards. Others believe that the destruction of Jerusalem disrupted many textual traditions. It is also possible that Eastern Orthodox communities recognized its spiritual value and preserved it with devotion. Regardless of the explanation, the existence of both First Enoch and Second Enoch reveals something essential in the centuries surrounding the life of Jesus. Jewish thinkers were reflecting deeply on the structure of the heavens. They were not only asking why the world had become corrupted, they were asking how the celestial realms functioned. Among all these traditions, Enoch, the man who walked with God, stands as a striking figure, a man of flesh and blood who entered heavenly realms. His story presents a possibility that a human being can be drawn upward, that mortal eyes, instead of seeing only dust, may glimpse eternal order, that a righteous heart may become a bridge between earth and heaven. So as we turn the pages of Second Enoch and step into the mystery of the 10 heavens, the question is not merely why this book traveled far from the Holy Land. The deeper question is this: how many sacred insights once lived within the memory of humanity, only to fade, fragment, or be preserved in unexpected places? Perhaps some truths are not always kept in the centers of power, but in quiet places, in manuscripts copied carefully by candlelight in remote monasteries, in communities that believed their task was to remember. And if that is so, then another question rises gently before us. What does it mean that these texts endured? And what does it reveal about the design God continues to uphold through history? But to understand why the secret of the 10 heavens drifted all the way to the distant Slavic lands, we must turn back the clock and return to the moment when historic decisions were made. It was a journey marked by refinement and exclusion. Why were the revelations attributed to Enoch labeled as apocryphal? Did they contain knowledge that seemed to exceed the boundaries of what humanity was meant to know? Or was it simply because they differed too greatly from what emerging religious authorities chose to preserve as official doctrine? In the next section, we will carefully examine the historical and theological reasons why Second Enoch was set aside and eventually excluded from the canon. 3 reasons Second Enoch was excluded from the biblical canon. You know, throughout history, the more something is restricted, the more people assume it must contain powerful secrets. Second Enoch is no exception. The first reason it was set aside lies in the figure of Enoch himself. In mainstream theology, the boundary between God and humanity is absolute. The Creator and the created are not equal. Yet in Second Enoch, we encounter a transformation that feels astonishing. Enoch is not merely taken up into heaven. He is anointed. He is clothed in glory. He is changed into a radiant being, described in terms that place him alongside the highest angels. Some later traditions even suggest that Enoch became Metatron, often described as the Prince of the Presence, a heavenly figure granted authority beneath God alone. To the church, this was simply too dangerous. Think about it. We're always told that humans are supposed to be tiny and powerless compared to the divine, right? But in 2 Enoch, we see Enoch, a man of flesh and blood, being taken up to heaven and upgraded into a powerful being, someone who eventually stands even above the angels. The church leaders back then thought, if everyone starts believing that a human can become this great and powerful, who's going to listen to us anymore? They were terrified of losing their absolute control. So they chose to hide this book away, making sure a people would always feel small, dependent, and in need of their leadership. The second reason was not strictly about faith, but about knowledge. Second Enoch reads at times like a structured description of the cosmos. It speaks of the movement of the sun, the courses of the moon, the stations of the stars, the storehouses of snow and rain, and the measured unfolding of time. The universe is described in ordered layers governed by laws and calculations. Back then, the secrets of the heavens were considered divine mysteries, things that could only be understood through a priest's interpretation or advanced scientific study. But 2 Enoch explained everything through numbers and laws that were just too clear, too detailed. To the compilers of the Bible, revealing the inner workings of the sky was like handing the master key to the general public. They believed this would lead to arrogance and strip away the mystery needed to maintain faith. Plus, when everything becomes too clear, people stop being afraid. And when they stop being afraid, they become much harder to control. So the book was seen as too advanced for its time and labeled as inappropriate. Finally, we come to perhaps the most practical reason: politics. Second Enoch was born in a chaotic era, a time when empires like Rome were trying to unify religion to make the people easier to rule. This book emphasized personal responsibility and being recorded as righteous in the heavenly books rather than focusing on temple rituals or loyalty to a specific priesthood. It essentially says that God watches and records your every move in a divine ledger, and you alone are responsible for your actions. It doesn't say much about going to ceremonies or relying on priests to speak for you. It's like being able to talk directly to the big boss without needing a secretary. The priests and the ruling elite felt sidelined. They saw their power structure being threatened. To protect that system, they decided Second Enoch could not be allowed in the official reading list. It was labeled as Apocrypha, not because its content was false, but because it didn't serve the power-building goals of the religious establishment at the time. So there it is. Second Enoch was banned because it was too free and too honest. But luckily, even though it was forbidden, it was passed down in secret so that we can read it today. Now let's put the ban aside. Join SleepCodex as the real journey begins. 7 heavens, or 10 heavens, which is the truth. When we speak about the structure of the heavens, one number appears again and again across civilizations: 7. From Jewish tradition and Islam to the most ancient cultures of Mesopotamia, the number 7 seems to have become a cosmic standard. It appears in the week of creation in 7 days, in the 7 classical celestial bodies in 7 heavens. For thousands of years, this number has held a central place in humanity's religious imagination. And then 2nd Enoch appears, and instead of 7 heavens, it speaks of 10. So what is the true structure of the celestial realm? To understand this question, we must carefully examine each tradition. First, there is the first Book of Enoch, also known as 1st Enoch, or the Ethiopic Enoch. This is the most familiar source for anyone who has explored texts outside the biblical canon. In 1st Enoch, Enoch is led through various heavenly regions. The text does not always number the heavens systematically, as 2nd Enoch does. But later tradition commonly understands his journey within a 7-heaven framework. Enoch sees the place where fallen stars are imprisoned, where angels oversee the order of the cosmos, and where the souls of the righteous and the wicked await the day of judgment. The key point is this: 1st Enoch still operates within the ancient Jewish cosmic framework, a layered universe structured harmoniously around the number 7. That is why audiences familiar with 1st Enoch naturally imagine 7 heavens as the standard. When 2nd Enoch introduces 10, the contrast becomes striking. Next comes the Jewish tradition preserved in the Talmud and Midrash, where the 7 heavens are named explicitly. The first heaven is Vilon, the lowest and thinnest layer. It contains nothing except the function of regulating light. It acts like a veil between the sacred and the earthly. By day, it rolls back so divine light expressed through the sun may illuminate the world. By night, it closes again, shielding the earth from the overwhelming brilliance above. The second heaven is Rakia, the firmament, where the visible celestial bodies, the sun, moon, and stars are set. In this realm, all heavenly bodies move in obedience to God's command. The third heaven is Shahakim, where enormous millstones stand. This is described as the kitchen of heaven, where angels grind manna, the pure sustenance given to Israel in the wilderness. It symbolizes divine provision, where material blessing flows from spiritual reality. The fourth heaven is Zabul, where a heavenly Jerusalem and celestial temple exist. It serves as the archetype of every earthly sanctuary. Here, the archangel Michael is described as acting in a priestly role, offering up the prayers of humanity, like fragrant incense before God. The fifth heaven is Mayon, the dwelling place of ministering angels who sing continual praise. This realm is filled with sound angelic choirs rotating in sacred service. Yet it also contains treasuries connected to judgment prepared for those who rebel. The sixth heaven is Mashan, where the storehouses of snow, rain, and frost are kept. These are not merely weather phenomena. In ancient texts, snow and rain are portrayed as instruments of blessing and of judgment, forces capable of reshaping nations. This realm reflects God's authority over creation itself. Finally, the seventh and highest heaven in the traditional structure is Araboth. Here dwell the highest celestial beings, the seraphim, cherubim, and Ophanim, the fiery wheels. A mist of glory surrounds the throne. This is the summit of the seven heaven system, the place where the righteous draw near to the radiant presence of God. And yet in 2nd Enoch, Araboth still appears, but it is positioned at the 10th level. It is as though the familiar structure has been extended upward by 3 additional realms. Leaving the Jewish manuscripts behind, we enter one of the most profound spiritual journeys ever recorded, the Isra and Miraj in Islam. In the Quran, Allah is praised as the supreme architect who established 7 heavens layered one above another. The number 7 becomes more than mathematics. It becomes sacred design. Imagine a quiet night. The Prophet Muhammad is taken on a journey beyond the visible world. In the first heaven, he meets Adam, the father of humanity. The gate opens, revealing the origin of human history, yet this is only the beginning. He ascends higher, passing through each heaven and encountering prophets at every level, the purity of Jesus and John. the beauty of Joseph, the wisdom of Idris and Aaron. With every ascent, the light intensifies, and the majesty of the Creator becomes clearer. In the sixth heaven, he meets Moses, who once spoke with God on Mount Sinai. In the seventh heaven, he encounters Abraham, leaning against Al-Bayt al-Ma'mur, the heavenly sanctuary visited daily by multitudes of angels. This marks the boundary of the material cosmos, a perfectly ordered system in which each prophet stands as a guardian of a stage on the ascent toward eternity. Yet even at the summit of Islam's 7 heavens, we have not reached the highest limit described in 2 Enoch. But if Muhammad's journey represents the summit of faith, the origin of the number 7 lies even further back in ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of human civilization. Thousands of years ago, Babylonian priests lifted their eyes to the night sky and discerned a remarkable order. Among the countless fixed stars, 7 wandering lights move steadily across the heavens. They understood these as 7 heavens, corresponding to 7 powerful celestial bodies: the radiant sun, the mysterious moon, and Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury. In the mind of the ancient world, these were far more than stones or distant spheres of gas. Each heaven was a domain. Each celestial body was a ruling power believed to shape the destiny of humanity. At that moment, the number 7 was not merely religious symbolism. It became the code of the cosmos, the first framework human intelligence used to structure reality. From the towering ziggurats of Babylon, the number 7 flowed into the current of history. It entered Judaism, expanded within Islam, and later formed the structural backbone of Christian cosmology. Even in the Middle Ages, the authority of the 7 heavens endured. In Dante's masterpiece, The Divine Comedy, The Ascent into Paradise still follows the classical geocentric order. Dante portrays a layered universe, 7 planetary spheres serving as 7 stages of spiritual ascent, leading to the sphere of the fixed stars, the primum mobile Zoe, and finally the Empyrean, where the light of God fills all things. Though Dante expands the architecture of heaven, its living core remains the ancient 7-planet system. When we place all these pieces side by side, a striking realization emerges. The 7 heavens are more than a concept. They form a cross-cultural standard, a conviction preserved across millennia, binding humanity to the stars. And then at this very point, 2 Enoch enters the conversation and shifts the entire structure. While the world bows before the perfection of 7, Enoch declares that humanity has only ascended part of the way. Above the radiant 7th heaven lie further realms, deeper, more powerful, more mysterious. What do the final 3 heavens conceal that even the greatest civilizations never fully described? According to 2 Enoch, the first 7 heavens resemble the Jewish tradition, storehouses of snow and rain, angelic dwelling souls awaiting judgment. Yet beyond the 7th, the ascent continues to the 8th, the 9th, and ultimately the 10th heaven, where supreme glory is revealed. The number 10 carries profound meaning. Within Jewish thought, the 10 Commandments, the 10 utterances of creation, the 10 Sephirot, later articulated in Kabbalistic tradition. 10 often signifies a higher completeness fulfillment beyond the natural cycle represented by 7. So which is true, 7 heavens or 10? Perhaps the deeper question does not rest solely in arithmetic. 7 reflects the classical cosmos, what humanity can observe and organize. 10 suggests an expanded framework, a transcendent dimension beyond ordinary perception. 2 Enoch seems to suggest that the universe does not end where human familiarity ends. Above the 7-fold order of the observable heavens, further realms of divine presence unfold. And there Enoch stands before the throne of glory. So what is the truth? Perhaps truth does not require choosing 7 or 10. Perhaps truth lies in what both traditions affirm: the heavens are ordered, and humanity lives beneath the watchful gaze of the Most High. Whether that structure contains 7 layers or 10, opens the door to deeper reflection on how each age looks upward and on how close it believes humanity may draw to the heavenly realm. What did Enoch see in the 10 heavens? In the second book of Enoch. In the ancient world, the number 7 symbolize the fullness of natural order. 7 days of creation, 7 classical planets, 7 heavens in Jewish and Islamic tradition. That was the dome of reality, most familiar to human understanding. So why in the second book of Enoch is that structure expanded to 10 levels? The answer lies in a broader vision of the universe. If the first 7 heavens reflect the celestial world and the observable order, then the final 3 unveil a more transcendent dimension, where the nature of time, the movement of the stars, and the glorious presence of the Most High are revealed at the deepest level. Enoch's journey begins in the lowest realms and gradually ascends. The first heaven in second Enoch is described as the region closest to the human world. There Enoch sees the storehouses of clouds, dew, rain, and snow. The natural forces familiar on earth are actually governed from a higher order. Angels appointed over climate and seasonal cycles operate according to divine command. The scene is astonishing in its precision and wonder. But then, just as you are soaring through radiant layers of clouds, the atmosphere suddenly shifts into thick darkness. You are standing in the second heaven, the terrifying prison of beings, once called divine. Here, Enoch sees entities who once belonged to the heavenly order, now existing in a state of waiting and deep reflection over their actions. While the Book of Enoch often describes the watchers as imprisoned beneath the earth, second Enoch places them in a heavenly realm. A powerful symbolic paradox, a prison embedded within the structure of heaven itself. Enoch sees a space devoid of the radiant light present in other heavens. The sky there appears covered in dense darkness, not the darkness of chaos, but the darkness of discipline. He sees angels who once held high positions now bound. The chains described are not physical metal, but unbreakable spiritual restraints, symbols of violated law and the consequences that follow. Their faces bear the mark of remorse. The free brilliance of heavenly messengers has been replaced by solemn awareness of their choice. When Enoch asks why they are there, they answer that they abandoned their appointed station. They acted on their own will instead of remaining faithful to the original command. In a single moment, they chose personal desire over divine order. The most striking detail is their plea to Enoch. They turn toward him, a man of flesh and blood, and ask him to carry their prayer to the Most High. The image overturns expectation beings who once stood near the throne, now seeking a human as a bridge of hope. The second heaven, therefore, represents more than confinement. It is a realm of memory and accountability. Their cosmic order is preserved and every choice is remembered. Leaving the second heaven, Enoch is brought to the third heaven, and here he witnesses one of the most shocking scenes in the entire text. To the south lies a radiant garden commonly associated with paradise. Gentle light fills the space. Trees release fragrance. The atmosphere overflows with life and peace. The souls of the righteous dwell there, awaiting the fulfillment of eternal purpose. But when Enoch looks north, the scene changes completely. He sees a region where fire and ice coexist. Flames rise intensely, yet their light gives no warmth. Ice spreads widely, yet it does not extinguish the fire. Two seemingly opposite elements exist simultaneously, symbolizing comprehensive justice. The text describes rivers of fire flowing across frozen ground. Angels who execute judgment, often called angels of punishment in English translations, stand guard over that order. Their appearance is solemn and they carry out their task with absolute precision. Those held in the northern region include not only rebellious angels, but also human souls connected to acts that damaged sacred order. Especially those who misused knowledge, defiling the earth, and distorting the original purpose of creation. In the third heaven, Enoch witnesses a severe paradox. Only a few steps north of paradise lies a valley of fire and frost. Why would God place hell within the very structure of heaven? Perhaps to reveal that the closer one stands to divine glory, the more intense the consequences of betrayal become. Enoch stands between two realities. On one side, the garden of life; on the other, the realm of discipline. There he understands that the universe operates not by emotion, but by justice and purpose. If the lower heavens focus on punishment and physical phenomena, then the fourth and fifth heavens are where Enoch begins to encounter the machinery of the universe and the armies of heaven. In the fourth heaven, Enoch draws near to celestial mechanisms. This realm is not merely an angelic dwelling. It governs light and time itself. Enoch sees massive chariots controlled by supernatural beings. The sun moves across the sky on a blazing chariot, drawn by 400 angels. In a remarkable detail, Enoch describes 6 gates of sunrise and 6 gates of sunset. These numbers correspond to the cycle of 365 days in a year. Surrounding the sun are beings called phoenixes and Chakidri creatures described as radiant, some resembling dragons with crocodile-like heads. Their brilliant colors shine intensely, and their voices echo throughout the heavens each time the sun rises, awakening the world. The fourth heaven demonstrates that the universe does not function randomly. It operates as a sophisticated system, and Enoch becomes the first mortal granted access to the technical blueprint of time. Then, as he ascends to the fifth heaven, the brilliance suddenly fades, replaced by a chilling silence. This realm carries a somber and contemplative tone. Here, Enoch encounters a group of immense beings called the Grigori, the Watchers. He describes them as having human form, yet towering beyond anything on earth. Their faces appear gaunt, silent, and sorrowful. Unlike other heavens filled with praise, the fifth heaven is completely still. No rituals, no instruments, no songs. In first Enoch, the fallen Watchers are confined in the abyss. In second Enoch, a group of Grigori dwell in the fifth heaven. They align themselves with the rebellious angels, yet remain in a state of waiting or mourning over their brethren who were cast down to the second heaven. In the unsettling stillness of the fifth heaven, Enoch realizes something profound. Even within heaven itself, sorrow and regret can overshadow the mightiest beings. Enoch speaks with them. He urges them to lift their voices in praise once more to break the oppressive silence. And when they begin to sing, the echo of those sorrowful giants reverberates through the entire heavenly realm, shaking the courts of heaven. Leaving behind the unsettling silence of the Watchers, Enoch advances into the sixth heaven. What meets his eyes is a magnificent radiance, the dwelling place of the wisest beings in the celestial order. Enoch sees 7 groups of angels, each group consisting of 7 beings. They do not resemble warrior angels. They appear more like scholars, scientists of heaven. Their faces shine brighter than the sun, and they are uniform in appearance and attire. This is the coordination center of the entire universe. From the rhythm of the oceans, to the sprouting of a seed, to the breath of every living creature, everything is calculated and meticulously recorded here. In the sixth heaven, nothing unfolds by accident. Every human action, every shift in nature rests under the observation of these heavenly intelligences. It is a realm of absolute order, where beauty emerges from divine precision. Enoch describes the sound in this heaven as exceedingly sweet and gentle songs of praise. There is no disorder, no error. Everything operates through a transcendent wisdom. Passing beyond the sages of the sixth heaven, Enoch touches Ereboth, the seventh heaven. For most traditions, this would be the ultimate destination, the supreme dwelling place of the Creator. Yet in Enoch's journey, it serves as only the threshold to realities even more powerful and overwhelming beyond. In this realm, space no longer resembles work chambers or prisons. Enoch steps into a sea of light and fire. At Ereboth, he stands in awe before beings beyond all human imagination. First are the seraphim blazing pillars of fire with 6 wings covering their forms. Their voices shake even the firmest layers of heaven. Then come the cherubim guardians with 4 distinct faces. Each gaze pierces to the depths of the soul. Most astonishing are the Ophanim. They are not humanoid and have no wings. They appear as enormous interlocking wheels of fire spinning with countless eyes that never close. Enoch understands that this is not merely a realm of serenity, it is a realm of absolute power. A world where beauty stands alongside overwhelming majesty, where even the glance of an angel could dissolve a mortal being. The light here burns so intensely that Enoch struggles to endure it. From a distance, he sees the throne of God enveloped in the cloud of glory, the Shekinah. Unlike the ordered calm of the sixth heaven, the seventh fills him with awe and trembling. He stands overwhelmed before the vast hosts of heaven. The two angels escorting him reassure him that he has been permitted to stand there. For many religions, this is where the ascent ends. This is the supreme dwelling. Enoch stands there in profound awe before the majesty of the heavenly court. He believes he has reached the edge of reality itself. But no, within the radiant cloud of glory, a voice calls him further, beckoning him beyond, into greater mysteries. Above the brilliant seventh heaven lie dimensions so hidden that even the most powerful angels bow before them. And so welcome to Muzaloth, the eighth heaven. Here the light does not emanate from angels, but from an immense celestial mechanism, silently governing the destiny of all creation. Have you ever wondered who truly directs the constellations and determines the turning of the seasons? The answer lies in this extraordinary realm. In ancient Hebrew understanding, Muzaloth is closely connected to Mazzaroth, the constellations, the 12 signs of the zodiac. In the eighth heaven, Enoch witnesses a breathtaking vision. The constellations are not fixed as they appear from Earth. Muzaloth is described as the changer of seasons. Here the constellations are arranged and moved along intricately designed paths. The 12 signs shine like colossal gears of light, rotating to regulate the flow of time from the warmth of spring to the cold of winter. Every movement of a star serves as a signal for life on Earth to begin another cycle. What makes Muzaloth so mysterious is the near absence of visible angelic figures. The angels seem to dissolve into the light of the stars themselves. Enoch perceives that nothing here unfolds randomly. Every change of weather, every pulse of time on Earth follows a pattern. Muzaloth testifies that the Creator established a self-sustaining system precise to the smallest fraction of time. This is the astronomical laboratory of heaven, where ancient science and sacred mysticism converge at a single point. Why does Second Enoch emphasize the changing of the constellations? In ancient thought, the constellations form the map of destiny. Their governance in the eighth heaven suggests that individual fate, the rise and fall of empires, all unfold according to a higher design. Muzaloth stands as the boundary where divine will becomes natural law. It reminds us that beyond faith lies the absolute precision of the stars. Beyond the gears of destiny in the eighth heaven, Enoch enters an even quieter and purer realm. This is the ninth heaven called Kuchavim, the houses of the stars. Here space no longer carries material qualities. It becomes an immense network of light and absolute mathematical law. In Kuchavim, Enoch sees the true dwelling places of the heavenly bodies. They are not wandering aimlessly. Each star has its fixed house or coordinate within the system. He describes their arrangement as following proportions of perfect precision, like a vast celestial grid where every point of light represents an equation of the Creator. This heaven ensures that the cosmos remains balanced. It sustains gravitational harmony and orbital order so that the lower heavens may continue to exist. Unlike the brilliance and activity of lower realms, the ninth heaven carries a solemn stillness. It functions like a final purification. It prepares the soul of the traveler for complete stillness before encountering the Most High in the 10th heaven. Concepts of time and space begin to dissolve, leaving only the presence of sacred order. And finally, the gate of the 10th heaven opens. Are you ready to describe the moment when Enoch stands in Aravoth, where he beholds God not in human form, but like molten metal blazing within an unapproachable sea of light? In the 10th heaven, Enoch no longer sees his angelic escorts. He stands alone in a sea of light so intense that it overwhelms mortal sight. He describes the Most High in striking imagery, not as an elderly figure with white hair as often painted in art, but as molten iron glowing in fire, or as a blazing light that cannot be extinguished. This moment forms the most controversial aspect of the book. God commands the angel Michael to remove Enoch's earthly garments, to anoint him with radiant holy oil, and to clothe him in garments of glory. Immediately, Enoch perceives that he is no longer merely human. He shines like the highest angels. Fear gives way to extraordinary understanding. There, God places a pen in his hand and commands him to write down the secrets of creation, from the formation of the smallest elements to the final destiny of humanity. Enoch, take this pen. Write what you have seen, for these are mysteries even the angels are not permitted to know. Thus, from a traveler upon the earth, Enoch becomes the scribe of heaven, holding in his hand the blueprint of the entire cosmos. More than that, in the 10th heaven, God reveals to Enoch secrets not previously disclosed even to angels, the mystery of how the world was formed from nothing. Enoch sees the heavenly book in which every action of every human being, past, present, and future, is recorded. He realizes that the order of the 10 heavens forms a grand symphony, and each soul is a note within it. Most profound of all, after this journey through the 10 heavens, the reader grasps a powerful truth: that humanity, when aligned with righteousness, may approach realms before which even celestial beings bow. This journey reveals that the universe is not an undefined void, but a refined design of 10 structured levels. Each heaven teaches a lesson. Each ascent awakens deeper understanding. Second Enoch may have been set aside and buried in history, yet the vision of the 10 heavens remains waiting for souls bold enough to lift their eyes and explore realities far beyond ordinary human comprehension. The Great Convergence, the 10 heavens and the code of 11 dimensions. Step back and look at the full picture. Modern science and ancient theology seem like two parallel lines. Yet in the second book of Enoch, they appear to intersect at a single point: the structure of reality. In theoretical physics, M theory, called by scientists a theory of everything, is not a fantasy hypothesis. It emerges from some of the most complex mathematical equations humanity has ever produced. Physicists assert that for this universe to exist and remain stable without collapsing into paradox, it must contain 11 dimensions of space. Now look at Second Enoch. While other religions remain anchored in the number 7, Second Enoch firmly describes a journey through 10 heavens. If we consider the material world in which humanity lives as the foundational dimension, the first dimension, and then add the 10 heavens extending above it, we arrive at precisely 11 dimensions. This correspondence does not stop at the number itself. In M theory, the dimensions from the 5th through the 11th are not extended outward in a way we can see. They are compactified, folded into the very fabric of reality. This helps explain why Enoch does not fly into outer space in a physical craft. He ascends, shifting his spiritual state to enter dimensions that already exist here, yet remain hidden from ordinary sight. Why does each heaven in Second Enoch possess a different character? The lower levels feel heavy, marked by ice and fire realms associated with matter. The higher levels become refined, filled with music and mathematics realms associated with energy. In string theory, the precursor to M theory, every fundamental particle arises from the vibration of extremely small strings of energy. When a string vibrates at a low frequency, it produces heavier matter. When it vibrates at a higher frequency, it produces light and stronger forces of interaction. Enoch describes his passage through each heaven like a process of frequency elevation. The higher he ascends, the more radiant his body becomes, until in the 10th heaven he transforms into pure light. The 10 heavens can be understood as an ancient description of 10 ascending levels of vibrational frequency within 10 hidden dimensions. At the 10th heaven, Aravath Enoch describes a realm where all form dissolves, leaving only molten iron and unapproachable light. In science, when one penetrates deeper into higher dimensions or approaches a singularity, the physical laws governing three-dimensional space cease to function as we know them. Enoch described this state thousands of years before Einstein was born. He does not speak of a kingdom filled with castles or white clouds in mythological fashion. He speaks of a realm where reality bends, where light becomes substance and mathematics becomes the language of God. Stephen Hawking once said, "Because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing." Second Enoch says, "God created order from chaos through the heavens," are both speaking of the same underlying reality. If Enoch's 10 heavens correspond to the 10 hidden dimensions of M theory, then we must accept a remarkable possibility: the ancients were not merely imagining myths. They were the first quantum physicists, and instead of particle accelerators, they used the soul to explore the map of the universe. And that is precisely why this book has been considered one of the most dangerous in history. It dissolves the boundary between faith and science, between humanity and multidimensional beings. The 11th dimension, the origin of all reality. If Enoch's 10 heavens correspond to the 10 hidden dimensions proposed in M theory, then one final piece remains to complete the cosmic map. In quantum physics, the 11th dimension differs from every level before it. It is not a single layer. It is an infinite ocean. Physicists refer to this as the bulk of transcendent space. Imagine the 11th dimension as an eternal ocean and our universe, including the 10 membrane-like layers of space, as a thin brain floating within it. Why do we not see these dimensions? Because of compactification. At the incredibly small Planck scale, these 10 dimensions are not located somewhere far away. They are curled up within every atom that forms your body. In physics, the 11th dimension is the realm where the laws governing our familiar space cease to operate in the usual way. It is the only dimension capable of encompassing and containing parallel universes. This aligns strikingly with Enoch's description of the 10th heaven Aravath. He does not portray it as a physical territory, but as an all-encompassing reality where he beholds the original blueprint of every soul. From a physical perspective, the 11th dimension resembles what scientists call the unified field, an immense informational reservoir where every scenario of past, present, and future exists as encoded energy. At this level, energy becomes limitless. When Enoch describes the appearance of God as molten iron glowing with fire, he uses ancient language to depict an absolute state of energy comparable to what physics describes as zero-point energy at its highest expression. This is the singular point of origin, where pure intention becomes matter, where even the slightest vibration can ignite a cosmic event, like the Big Bang, and give birth to galaxies. One of the most provocative parallels between M theory and Second Enoch lies in the concept of connection. Modern physics proposes that gravity is the only force capable of leaking across dimensions, yet Second Enoch suggests that something even more powerful can traverse those boundaries: consciousness. Through phenomena such as quantum entanglement, consciousness appears not confined strictly to 3 physical dimensions. Enoch's transformation into a being of light in the 10th heaven suggests that when awareness rises in vibrational refinement, resonance forms with the parent dimension. At that point, a human being can pass through the 10 membranes of the universe and approach the 11th dimension, the source of all existence. So when you look up at the night sky, see more than distant points of light. Recognize that you stand before a vast, multi-dimensional gateway. Enoch's 10 heavens are not geographical locations. They are dimensions already present around you, separated only by a shift in the vibration of consciousness. Science calls this M theory. Enoch calls it heaven. The terminology differs, yet the structure points toward a single reality. Humanity is not a small species confined within a 3-dimensional world. We are multi-dimensional travelers, carrying within us the code to open the 11th gate, where even the stars appear as dust within the radiance of the Creator. But the mystery of dimensions does not end with the forbidden manuscripts of the West. If we turn our gaze to the East, to the ancient teachings of Buddhism, we encounter another number: 33 heavens. Could it be that Enoch's 10 heavens and the East's 33 heavens are in essence the same map drawn through different cultural lenses? Once again, the concept of realms aligns in a striking way with the idea of dimensions in modern quantum physics. The secret of the 33 heavens taught in Buddhism. When we place Enoch's map of the 10 heavens alongside the Buddhist system of the 3 realms, a profound parallel gradually emerges. 2 traditions separated by thousands of years and half the globe speak of a layered universe in which existence unfolds from coarse to subtle levels. This suggests that ancient sages, whether in the East or the West, were contemplating the same multidimensional structure of reality expressed through different cultural languages. While Enoch describes 10 specific heavens through a concrete ascension journey, Buddhism summarizes the entire cosmos within the framework of the 3 realms. 3 vast spheres encompassing all states of existence: the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. When examined closely, Enoch's 10 heavens can be seen as a detailed expansion contained within this 3-fold structure. The desire realm, the sphere of craving and emotion, corresponds to the lower heavens of Enoch, levels 1 through 3. These are spaces still connected to material elements: snow, rain, fire, ice, judgment, and beings experiencing the consequences of their actions. In both systems, this is the level where form and emotion still carry tangible weight. Ascending higher, we encounter the form realm, the sphere of refined existence. This aligns with the middle heavens in Enoch's journey levels 4 through 9. Here, matter becomes increasingly subtle light, and music replaces dense physical forms, and the universe operates according to precise mathematical laws. In Second Enoch, celestial bodies move along appointed paths. In Buddhism, beings in the form realm exist through radiant energy and purified luminosity. Finally comes the formless realm, the sphere beyond shape and structure. This state corresponds perfectly with Enoch's 10th heaven, Aravath. There all forms and concepts dissolve into the blazing radiance of the ultimate source. Consciousness enters into union with supreme reality, transcending familiar frameworks of space and time. What then of the 33 heavens in Buddhism? In the scriptures, especially within the Theravada tradition, the number 33 is often associated with the heaven of the 33 Tavatimsa, situated atop Mount Sumeru, where celestial beings dwell under the leadership of Saka Indra. The number 33 carries deep symbolic resonance. In the human body, the spine consists of 33 vertebrae. In ancient yogic traditions, the awakening of Kundalini energy is envisioned as an ascent along these 33 segments from the root chakra to the crown of the head, where consciousness reaches its highest state of enlightenment. In Western esoteric traditions, such as Freemasonry, the 33rd degree represents the highest level of intellectual and spiritual attainment. The recurrence of this number across cultures suggests a symbolic code pointing towards structured stages of evolution. Viewed symbolically, the 33 heavens in Buddhism may represent a more detailed map of progressive states of consciousness. While Enoch's 10 heavens portray a cosmological structure, in spatial terms, the 33 heavens in Buddhism reflect an inner journey, the refinement of successive layers of awareness. Enoch's ascent from the lower to the higher heavens mirrors the path of a spiritual practitioner, awakening energy along the spine, purifying successive layers of perception. Each higher level represents greater purity, deeper understanding, and closer proximity to ultimate wisdom. From this perspective, the two traditions stand not in opposition, but in complement. One sketches the architecture of the cosmos, the other charts the architecture of consciousness. And when these two maps are placed side by side, a shared message resounds. The universe is ordered in ascending levels, and humanity carries within itself the capacity to evolve through those levels, from the material world to the pure radiance of awakened awareness. Mount Sumeru and the 10th heaven, the point of convergence. When standing at the threshold of the 10th heaven, we often assume that greatness lies solely in ascending ever higher. Yet the secret of this supreme realm unfolds along an opposite dimension, the very nature of boundless receptivity. Turn your gaze to the east, where Mount Sumeru is revered as the eternal axis of the cosmos. In cultural geography, Mount Wuyi, located in the northwest of Fujian Province, China, has long been celebrated as the most beautiful wonder of Southeast. Over time, it became associated symbolically with the cosmic Mount Sumeru of Buddhist cosmology. Folk tradition preserves a legend about the origin of its name. It is said that in ancient times, an immortal sage named Peng Zhu resided upon this mountain to cultivate the way. When hungry, he consumed lingzhi mushrooms. When thirsty, he drank from mountain springs. Two of his sons practiced cultivation alongside him, one named Qing Yu, the other Qing Di. When Peng Zhu reached the age of 880, he attained transcendence and ascended to the heavens. Before departing, he instructed his sons to accumulate merit by benefiting the people, to help local villagers overcome natural disasters. Qing Yu and Qing Di guided them in clearing mountains, digging river channels, and planting rare flowers and herbs across the slopes. Gradually, the region transformed into a landscape of extraordinary earthly beauty. In remembrance of Qing Yu and Qing Di, the people combined one character from each of their names and called the mountain Wuyi Yu Yi. Yet the majestic mountain, visible to the human eye, represents only a minute reflection of a far greater reality. Within the microscopic realm, Mount Sumeru exists within the intricate structure of every atom. In the macroscopic realm, it bears the scale of entire galaxies. This continuity from the smallest subatomic particle to the vastness of cosmic space reveals a profound paradox. Our world resembles a speck of dust within its encompassing capacity. From this perspective, we encounter a deeper truth about the magnitude of a being's capacity. Greatness is measured not merely by how high one ascends, but also by how deeply one can descend. The lowest point a being can reach reveals as much as the highest heaven they can touch. A life that achieves a state of perfect, unbroken wholeness resembles a flawless circle without deficiency. If one focuses solely on rising upward, while neglecting the humility to descend to understand and to bear responsibility, the capacity of that life remains confined within solitary elevation. This principle echoes the legend of Mount Wuyi in Fujian, where immortals chose to embody themselves in soil and stone, digging rivers and planting grass to bless the people. They illustrate the power of descending fully, becoming the very foundation upon which life flourishes, transforming humility into the strength that sustains all things. This descent unveils another profound paradox, the principle of bearing responsibility. Within the operation of the universe, the one who stands brilliantly at the forefront may not be the true sovereign. The leader at the front may serve as the guiding bird of the flock. Yet the one positioned beneath, supporting the whole structure, holds the ultimate coordinating authority. Nature itself reflects this law. The sea becomes the king of 100 rivers because it chooses the lowest place, allowing all waters to flow into it. The 10th heaven of Enoch and the summit of Mount Sumeru converge upon this truth. The higher the realm, the deeper the humility required. When the ego-driven self dissolves completely, when the boundlessness above and the depth below unite as one, the being ceases to exist as an isolated individual and becomes an eternal reality where inner and outer are indistinguishable. It resembles a bottomless reservoir, never filled, because it clings to nothing yet capable of containing all, because it knows no boundary. At this point, we understand why in the 10th heaven, Enoch must remove his earthly garments and be clothed in a garment of glory. This moment signifies more than elevation in rank. It marks the expansion of spiritual capacity to its fullest extent, to embrace and transmute every impurity within the cosmos. At this ultimate threshold, truth no longer appears as a sharp light of judgment. It becomes absolute sincerity and profound humility, a compassionate energy capable of melting iron and embracing all humanity. Code 33. The blueprint of heaven reflected on earth. Have you ever wondered why numbers like 10 or 33 appear not only in ancient scriptures, but also leave their imprint on humanity's greatest power structures and monumental architectures? Could it be that the master builders of history, the minds behind esoteric brotherhoods, understood something about the original blueprint described in the 10th heaven? Look at the human body, a complete microcosm. We possess exactly 33 vertebrae. In Eastern esoteric traditions, it is taught that life energy kundalini rests coiled at the base of the spine. For spiritual awakening to occur, this energy must descend through all 33 segments of the spinal column until it reaches the brain home of the pineal gland, often called the third eye. Here, the number 33 represents the biological distance consciousness must travel to transcend material instinct and reach higher wisdom. And the resonance does not stop there. In the West, Freemasonry, the order of master builders and influential thinkers throughout history, also places the number 33 at its summit. The 33rd degree, known as Knight Kadosh within the Scottish Rite, stands as the highest initiation. At this level, the initiate is believed to have comprehended the complete, original blueprint of the universe. The number 33 symbolizes perfected attainment. These architects held that by embedding sacred numbers into urban planning or social institutions, they could establish an earthly order that mirrors the celestial realm. Symbolically, when one reaches degree 33, one has ascended the full ladder of the spine and touched the creative authority associated with the 11th dimension. Why 33? Could this be a reflection of the 33 heavens atop Mount Sumeru? A staircase each being must ascend to approach the 11th dimension. When compared with the structure of the human spine, a striking parallel appears. Mount Sumeru resembles the spinal column of the cosmos. The ascent to its summit, where celestial beings dwell, serves as a metaphor for raising one's vibrational frequency through 33 energetic stages. The outer landscape mirrors the inner architecture of the human being. From the Great Pyramids to the layouts of ancient cities, the recurring presence of the number 33 suggests intentional design rather than coincidence. It reflects a principle: the outer world is constructed according to inner structure. Esoteric orders did not select this number arbitrarily. They recognized it as the number of awakening. Perhaps the master architects of history designed cathedrals and ancient cities according to proportions aligned with 33 in order to create spiritual accelerators. They sought environments in which human energy could resonate more easily with the 11th dimension. Thus, the number 33 becomes a code of liberation. By constructing buildings aligned with the proportions of the 10 heavens, or the 33 levels of consciousness they symbolically created immense antennas designed to attract energy from the primal dimension. This leads to a provocative hypothesis. If the world itself reflects Enoch's multi-layered structure, then we are not accidental inhabitants of a random planet. We dwell within an immense mechanism governed by higher mathematical codes. And once you understand Code 33, you no longer see a spine or a monument as ordinary forms. You see a ladder reaching toward the throne of the Creator, where boundaries between human and divine dissolve. It reminds us that whether you stand within a human body or before towering architecture, you carry within you the ladder to Enoch's 10th heaven. You need not travel anywhere, because the blueprint of the universe is already inscribed within your very bones. Yet the mystery of spiritual ascent extends far beyond the 33 vertebrae of the human spine or the 33 heavens atop Mount Sumeru. If we understand the number 33 as detailed steps along a vast journey, then Enoch's 10 heavens stand as the 10 greatest milestones along that path. Remarkably, this structure aligns seamlessly with a foundational Eastern concept, the 10 realms, 10 states, or spheres of consciousness. This alignment reaches beyond numerical coincidence. It points toward a shared truth. Whether in East or West, the cosmos unfolds according to a single measure, the degree of purity within the soul. The 10 heavens and the 10 realms, a convergence of East and West. When we examine the Buddhist cosmological map, Enoch's journey feels strikingly familiar. The 10 realms do not exist on distant planets. They reside within the consciousness of every individual. The system begins with the 6 lower realms, where life remains bound within lower frequencies and repetitive cycles of karma. Here, material attachment and desire generate a dense gravitational pull. At the lowest level stands hell, where consciousness burns in resentment and contracts within suffering. Above it lies the realm of hungry spirits, where the soul exists in a perpetual state of emptiness, driven by insatiable craving. Next comes the animal realm, where life operates primarily through instinct, with wisdom lying dormant. This density begins to shift in the realm of Asura, where beings possess merit, yet remain entangled in pride and rivalry. Upon reaching the human realm, one stands at a pivotal membrane of the universe, where suffering and joy interweave to create a singular opportunity to descend further into attachment, or to cultivate and rise. At the summit of these 6 lies the heavenly realm, inhabited by beings rich in merit and blessing, yet still influenced by time through subtle attachment to personal pleasure. A true turning point emerges when one relinquishes the ego-driven self and enters the 4 noble realms, the luminous domain of freedom and awakened awareness. At this juncture, the Buddhist map aligns precisely with Enoch's highest heavens. The path begins with the Shravaka, the hearers, who elevate their frequency through insight into truth. More profound still is the Pratyeka Buddha, the solitary realized, one who independently perceives the mathematical structure of reality, much like the wise celestial beings described in the 9th heaven. At the Bodhisattva stage, we witness an extraordinary expansion of existential capacity. A Bodhisattva not only ascends, but willingly descends into the depths. To liberate all beings embodying a timeless truth, to rise infinitely high, one must embrace infinite depth. The journey culminates in the Buddha realm, a state of complete, indestructible wholeness. Here, the small self dissolves entirely, merging with the vast Dharma realm. This convergence mirrors the 10th heaven and the 11th dimension, a reality in which inner and outer become one, where existence flows as an eternal source of compassion and light for the entire cosmos. When the 10 heavens meet the 10 realms, the resonance between these two systems extends beyond number. It is woven into the very mechanics of each level. Consider first the struggle with instinct at the lower realms. In 2 Enoch, the first 3 heavens contain imprisoned fallen angels amid valleys of fire and ice. In Buddhism, this imagery parallels the 4 lower realms: hell-hungry spirits, animals, and asura. The shared element here is the density of karma, the gravitational field generated by past actions and their consequences. Within these realms, life is governed by coarse desires, anger, and pain. Light is obscured by ignorance, a state of blindness and lack of awareness, just as Enoch describes sorrowful beings bound in the solemn stillness of the 2nd heaven. These are the lowest vibrational domains, where the narrow ego confines existence within limited capacity and suffering. As instinctive craving is transcended, consciousness enters realms of order and wisdom. From the 4th to the 9th heavens, in Enoch's account, wise beings appear who oversee the mechanisms of the cosmos. This corresponds beautifully to the human realm, the heavenly realm, and especially to the higher attainments of Shravaka and Pratyekabuddha. At these levels, beings begin to move beyond karmic bondage and perceive the law of dependent origination, the principle that all phenomena arise through interdependent causes and conditions. Nothing exists in isolation. Just as the angels in the 6th heaven meticulously record the rhythms of life sages in the Pratyekabuddha realm, perceive the universe's governing laws through deep meditative concentration. The unifying thread here is the reign of wisdom, where turbulent emotion yields to the precision of cosmic order and higher mathematics. Finally, the journey ascends to Liberation's summit, where the 10th heaven meets the Buddha realm. The greatest transformation unfolds in Aravath, the 10th heaven, where Enoch beholds the Most High and is transformed into the radiant being, Metatron. In Buddhism, this parallels the state of the Bodhisattva and the Buddha. Here unfolds a vast expansion of existential capacity. Enoch dons the garment of glory to encompass the cosmos, just as a Buddha realizes egolessness, complete liberation from the limited self and union with universal life. When Enoch beholds the original blueprint, he touches what Buddhism calls Buddha nature, the innate pure essence present within all beings. At this level, the boundary between East and West dissolves entirely. A bodhisattva who willingly descends into the depths to liberate others confirms an eternal principle. Infinite height requires infinite depth. The universe reveals itself as a multidimensional symphony where each soul journeys toward rediscovering its own vast and luminous nature. But in order for the journey of rediscovering one's true essence not to drift into aimlessness, the universe has established a perfectly ordered structure of operation, a multidimensional map that ancient religions call the 3 realms. This is not merely a spiritual concept, but an immensely complex space-time system. Humanity in reality dwells within only a very small compartment, the lowest tier of space-time within this vast structure. Concepts such as the 10 heavens or the 33 heavens that we often hear about are in essence different dimensions and energetic levels within the 3 realms. Even the 4 heavenly kings who guard the gates of heaven are in this view divine beings who protect the space-time nodes that separate distinct levels of existence. Yggdrasil, the circulatory system of the worlds. If the 3 realms form the structural framework, then the world tree Yggdrasil in Norse mythology represents the energetic circulatory system connecting the 9 worlds. From the radiant realm of the Aesir gods to the shadow domain of the giants, all are sustained by a single axial current of energy. The 3 roots of Yggdrasil anchor into 3 sacred wells, the Well of Fate, the Well of Wisdom, and the Boiling Cauldron. These are not ordinary waters, but singularities points where the information and destiny of the entire cosmos are stored. The image of the rooster perched at the crown of the tree and the dragon Nidhogg gnawing at its roots symbolizes the delicate balance between creation and destruction. If this circulation were to break, the twilight of the gods would arrive a total energetic reset. Striking parallels appear in the Bible and in the classic of mountains and seas. The tree of life in Eden and the Jianmu tree at the axis of heaven and earth both function as space-time elevators. Whoever understands the energetic pathways of these sacred trees can elevate their level-traverse dimensions and ultimately return to heaven. From an energetic perspective, these divine trees represent life forms, existing in higher dimensions of space-time. Standing in a lower dimension, we perceive only fragments of myth. At higher levels, these are vast, energetic conduits driving the universe. It is time to reconsider the sun. It is not merely a sphere of burning hydrogen gas. Within higher dimensional space-time, the sun functions as an energy portal, a receiving and regulating node that channels energy from the galactic core into the entire ecosystem of the solar system. But how can such immense energy be transmitted with precision into our reality without causing chaos? The answer lies in an intricate operational mechanism that ancient scholars described as the cosmic gearing system of the 10 heavenly stems and the 12 earthly branches. Imagine the universe operating through colossal currents of energy. The 10 heavenly stems are not merely a calendar system. They are 10 grand energetic meridians connecting higher dimensional space-time directly to the sun. In order for this energy to step down and harmonize with the frequency of earthly existence, it passes through the 12 earthly branches, the terrestrial receiving meridians. When the 10 heavenly stems interlock with the 12 earthly branches, they function like enormous gears in a cosmic clock, generating an uninterrupted cycle of energetic circulation. Thus, the concept of a 10-day cycle represents the time required for a current from the heavenly stems to complete its energetic sweep through our realm. This explains why human biological rhythms and destiny have long been associated with the stem branch system. We are literally immersed in shifting energetic currents as these cosmic gears rotate. Viewed through this mechanical lens, ancient myths, such as the Fusang sacred tree, said to host 10 suns, take on an unexpected coherence. From a higher galactic vantage point, Fusang is not a wooden tree, but a vast branching energy circulation system. It operates like a conductor, drawing from the galactic core, the deepest root of the tree, and channeling energy along space-time branches toward their terminal points, the stars. In this perspective, our sun is like a flower or fruit receiving nourishment directly from the trunk of the great tree of life. Yet the flow does not end at the center of the solar system. After passing through the sun as a transformative substation, the energy continues to radiate and permeate the Earth through dragon veins, the planetary meridian system. This forms the final stage of a perfectly orchestrated cosmic nourishment process. Everything begins at the source, the radiant core of the Milky Way, the origin of the great Fusang tree. The infinite energy is transmitted through the 10 heavenly stems, higher dimensional meridians, guiding light across dimensions. Upon reaching the solar system, the sun serves as the receiving and step-down portal, converting energy into forms compatible with life. That energy is then distributed through the 12 earthly branches and the Earth's dragon veins, flowing into every corner of the planet. And the final destination of this vast journey is the sustaining and nurturing of each human life. We are not separate. Every breath, every pulse of blood through our veins vibrates at the same frequency as the current flowing across the leaves of the tree of life, tens of thousands of light years away. You are not a random speck of dust in empty space. You are a living cell sustained by a magnificent and compassionate cosmic system of creation. However, the energy from the tree of life is not a motionless concept. It is in constant movement, generating the pulse of the human world. The ancients described this law as spring gives birth, summer nurtures growth, autumn harvests, winter stores. On the surface, this appears to be nothing more than seasonal change. In essence, it is the breath of the great circulation of the macrocosm, the vast energetic cycle of heaven and earth. In spring and summer, yang energy rises powerfully from the depths of the earth like sap surging upward through branches, causing all living things to flourish and shine. In autumn and winter, this current quietly withdraws into the earth for preservation, guiding all beings into rest as they await the next cycle. This operation leaves behind subtle signs that often go unnoticed. Why does the phenomenon of warm winters and cool summers occur underground? Miners and those who draw water from deep wells understand this well. When the surface is frozen, the deep water below feels warm. When the surface burns with heat, the underground remains cool. This is not coincidence. It reveals that yang energy, the warming force of the earth, rises and descends according to the seasons. The human body, a complete microcosm, corresponds intimately to this law. Traditional Chinese medicine teaches that in summer, yang energy surfaces, while in winter it sinks into the bones and marrow. This understanding gave rise to the principle of treat winter illnesses in summer and treat summer illnesses in winter, aligning healing with the natural flow of energy. All things possess spirit form shifts. According to dimensional level, to our eyes, mountains, rivers, or even numerical systems such as the 10 heavenly stems appear as lifeless matter. Yet from a higher dimensional vantage point, all are immense life forms. Imagine that the meridian system of space-time we call the heavenly stems in a higher dimension is in fact a radiant divine tree growing within the Milky Way. This is not metaphor. It speaks to the nature of life form manifestation. Depending on the dimensional level from which one observes a being, reveals a corresponding form. Only from the highest plane of space-time can one behold the full and authentic reality of all things. Even the terrain of the earth holds such mysteries. The story of the Tibet demon subduing map offers a classic example. When Princess Wensheng gazed upon the Tibetan plateau, she did not merely see mountains. She perceived the form of a vast demoness lying across the land, radiating an energetic field that obstructed the flourishing of Buddhism. The 12 monasteries built as demon-subduing temples functioned like 12 colossal acupuncture needles, sealing the energy of that entity in another dimension and preventing its influence from entering the human realm. Throughout history, pagodas, temples, and geomantic structures have carried similar purposes. The sages, who were said to be versed in celestial patterns above and earthly geography below, did not see only with physical sight. They perceived the intersection of space-time layers where mountains were divine beings and rivers were meridians circulating the lifeblood of entire civilizations. The mysteries of the heavens, the pulse of the earth, and the hidden entities within other dimensions raise a profound question about humanity's own position. We live in an age where empirical science is revered as a universal key. Yet if we rely solely on finite physical instruments to study an infinite cosmos, we perceive only fragments of reality. Science, however magnificent, remains a system of evolving hypotheses continually revised. When we trust only what the eyes see and the ears hear, we confine ourselves within the narrow enclosure of lower dimensional space-time, turning away from the radiant current flowing from the tree of life. The greatest lesson left by Enoch, Elijah, and the ancient sages is not supernatural power, but humility before the Creator. When humanity begins to acknowledge the presence of the divine, in other words, to recognize a supreme intelligence that established the flawless blueprint of the universe, the eye of the soul begins to open. Faith in the divine is not superstition. It is the recognition that higher laws and purer frequencies govern existence. When a person cultivates virtue, preserves kindness and sincerity, that individual elevates their own frequency to harmonize with the divine. At that moment, the veils separating dimensions begin to thin. The universe has never been silent. It speaks through every pulse of the dragon veins and every rotation of the heavenly stems and earthly branches. The question is whether we possess enough humility to listen and enough faith to look beyond inert matter and touch the sacred essence within all things. Ultimately, humanity's greatest journey is not the conquest of stars by rocket, but the conquest of arrogance within the self, returning to authentic faith. For only faith and goodness form the ladder that allows us to rise beyond the three realms and once again wear garments of glory among the radiant heavens. But if we remain fixated on the dazzling dimensions above, we risk missing the true purpose this ancient patriarch intended to leave behind. Enoch's journey through the 10 heavens was not a mystical excursion designed to satisfy curiosity. It served as the foundation for the most important message of the book, the moral instruction given to humanity in its latter half. The Book of Enoch, 2, and its visions for humanity today. After standing before the Most High and beholding the complete blueprint of the universe, Enoch was granted permission to return to Earth for exactly 30 days. He did not return carrying supernatural powers. He returned carrying a way of life. In fact, nearly the entire second half of 2 Enoch shifts away from descriptions of angels and radiant realms. Instead, it becomes a series of firm yet compassionate teachings on how a human being ought to live. The original text records it as follows. Chapter 36. God commanded Enoch to remain on earth for 30 days so that he might instruct his sons and his children's children. After those 30 days, he was to be taken up again into heaven. Now, Enoch, I appoint for you a term of 30 days to stay in your house. Tell your sons and all your household, so that all may hear from your mouth what is spoken to them through you. Let them read and understand that there is no other God but me. Let them always keep my commandments and begin to read and study the books written by your hand. After 30 days, I will send my angel for you, and he will take you from the earth and from your sons back to me. Chapter 37. Here God summons an angel, and the Lord called one of the elder angels, terrible and awe-inspiring, and set him beside me. His appearance was white as snow, and his hands were like ice, resembling great frost. He chilled my face, for I could not endure the terror of the Lord, just as one cannot endure the heat of a blazing fire, or the burning of the sun, nor the piercing frost of the air. And the Lord said to me, Enoch, if your face were not frozen here, no man would be able to look upon your face. Chapter 38. Methuselah continued to hope and to wait for his father Enoch at his couch, keeping watch day and night. And the Lord said to those men who had first led me up, let Enoch go down to the earth with you and wait for him until the appointed day. And they placed me upon my couch at night. Methuselah, expecting my return and watching day and night beside my couch, was filled with awe when he heard me come. And I said to him, let all my household be gathered together, that I may tell them everything. Chapter 39. Enoch's earnest exhortation to his sons, spoken with weeping and great lamentation. O my children, my beloved ones, hear the admonition of your father according to the will of the Lord. Today I have been permitted to come to you and to declare to you, not from my own lips, but from the lips of the Lord, all that is and was and is now, and all that shall be until the day of judgment. For the Lord has allowed me to come to you. Therefore hear the words of my mouth. I am one made great for you, yet I am a man who has seen the face of the Lord, like iron made to glow from fire, sending forth sparks and burning. You look now upon my eyes, the eyes of a man made significant for you. Yet I have seen the eyes of the Lord, shining like the rays of the sun, and filling the eyes of man with awe. You see now, my children, the right hand of a man that helps you. Yet I have seen the right hand of the Lord filling heaven as he helped me. You see the measure of my work like your own, yet I have seen the Lord's limitless and perfect measure, which has no end. You hear the words of my lips as I heard the words of the Lord, like great thunder without ceasing, with the crashing of clouds. And now, my children, hear the discourse of the Father of the earth. How fearful and dreadful it is to stand before the face of the ruler of the earth. How much more fearful and dreadful it is to stand before the face of the ruler of heaven, the governor of the living and the dead, and of the heavenly hosts. Who can endure that endless pain? Chapter 40. Enoch instructs his children truthfully in all things from the lips of the Lord, what he saw and heard and wrote down. And now, my children, I know all things, for this is from the lips of the Lord, and my eyes have seen it from beginning to end. I know all things, and I have written all things in books, the heavens and their limits, their fullness, all the hosts and their movements. I have measured and described the stars, the great and countless multitude of them. What man has seen their revolutions and their entrances? Even the angels do not know their number, yet I have written all their names. I measured the circle of the sun and its rays. I counted the hours. I wrote down all things that pass over the earth, everything nourished, every seed sown and unsown, that the earth produces all plants, every grass and every flower, their fragrances and their names, the dwelling places of the clouds, their composition and their wings, and how they bear rain and raindrops. I investigated all things and wrote the paths of thunder and lightning. They showed me the keys and their guardians, their rising and their courses. It is released gently by a chain, lest by violence it cast down the angry clouds and destroy all things upon the earth. I wrote the treasuries of snow and the storehouses of cold and frosty air. I observed their seasonal keeper who fills the clouds with them and does not exhaust the storehouses. I wrote the resting places of the winds and observed how their guardians carry scales and measures. First they place them in one scale, then in another, and release them by measure across the whole earth, lest by excessive breath they cause the earth to tremble. I measured the whole earth, its mountains and hills, fields, trees, stones, rivers, and all existing things. I wrote the height from earth to the seventh heaven, and downward to the lowest hell, the place of judgment, and the vast and open weeping hell. I saw how the prisoners suffer in pain, awaiting the endless judgment. I wrote down all those, being judged by the judge, all their sentences and all their works. It doesn't stop there. From chapter 63 onward, the second book of Enoch issues a stern warning against the exploitation of others and the act of deceit. In today's world, this might manifest as an employer profiting off the blood, sweat, and tears of their workers, or a hollow promise made in business just to secure an illicit gain. According to Enoch, these actions are more than just social transgressions. They are an energetic sentence that directly dictates our frequency of vibration. You simply cannot fly high when your wings are weighed down by the injustices you've inflicted upon others. Enoch places a special emphasis on respecting the order of creation. It is as simple as how you treat a single branch, a small animal, or how you protect our shared environment. If you cannot cherish a tiny living soul right before your eyes, how could you ever comprehend the grandeur of the angels in the sixth heaven? This reveals that Two Enoch is far more than just a forbidden mystical text. It is a profound moral manifesto. It affirms a simple yet earth-shattering truth. You cannot don the garment of glory in the highest heaven if you haven't first learned to live with kindness and humility on the lowest earth. Chapter 63. Enoch shows his children how he measured and recorded God's judgments. O my children, I have measured and written out every work, every measure, and every righteous judgment. As one year is more honorable than another, so one man is more honorable than another one for great possessions, another for wisdom of heart, another for particular understanding, another for skill, one for silence of speech, another for purity, one for strength, another for beauty, one for youth, another for sharp intelligence, one for physical form, another for sensitivity. Let this be heard everywhere. There is none better than the one who fears God. He shall be more glorious in the age to come. Chapter 64. Enoch instructs his sons not to revile the face of any person, whether small or great. The Lord with his own hands created mankind in the likeness of his own face. The Lord made him both small and great. Whoever reviles the face of a ruler and abhors the face of the Lord has despised the face of the Lord. He who vents anger upon any person without cause shall be cut down by the Lord's great anger. He who spits upon the face of a man in reproach shall be cut down at the Lord's great judgment. Blessed is the one who does not set his heart in malice against any person, who helps the injured and the condemned, who lifts up the broken and shows charity to the needy. For on the day of the great judgment, every weight, every measure, and every standard will be as in a marketplace placed upon scales. Each person shall learn his own measure, and according to that measure shall receive his reward. Chapter 65. God reveals that he desires from mankind not sacrifices or burnt offerings, but pure and contrite hearts. Whoever hastens to bring an offering before the face of the Lord The Lord will hasten to respond to that offering by granting the work of his hands. But whoever increases his lamp before the Lord's face and does not render true judgment, the Lord will not increase his treasure in the realm of the highest. When the Lord demands bread or candles or flesh or any other sacrifice that amounts to nothing, rather God requires pure hearts, and through all these things he tests the heart of man. Chapter 66. Of how an earthly ruler refuses corrupt and unclean gifts, and how much more God rejects unclean offerings. Hear my people and receive the words of my lips. If anyone brings gifts to an earthly ruler while harboring disloyal thoughts in his heart, and the ruler perceives this, will he not grow angry and refuse the gifts and deliver that man to judgment? Or if one person appears righteous before another through deceitful speech, while evil remains in his heart, will not the other discern the treachery? And that man stand condemned, since his falsehood was evident to all. When the Lord sends forth a great light, judgment will come upon both the righteous and the unrighteous, and no one will remain hidden. Chapter 67. Enoch instructs his sons from the lips of God and entrusts them with his writings. And now, my children, set these words upon your hearts, and heed carefully the words of your father, which have come to you from the lips of the Lord. Take these books written by your father's hand and read them. For the books are many, and in them you will learn all the works of the Lord, everything from the beginning of creation until the end of time. If you observe what is written, you will not sin against the Lord. For there is no other besides the Lord, neither in heaven, nor on earth, nor in the lowest places, nor in the very foundation. The Lord has set foundations in the unseen, and stretched out both visible and invisible heavens. He established the earth upon the waters, and created countless creatures. Who has counted the waters and the shifting foundation, the dust of the earth, the sand of the sea, the drops of rain, the morning dew, or the breath of the wind? Who has filled earth and sea and the enduring winter? I cut the stars from fire, adorned the heavens, and set them in their midst. Chapter 68. Of the passage of the sun along the 7 circles. The sun travels through 7 heavenly circles appointed with 182 thrones, descending on the shorter day, and again 182 on the longer day. It has 2 thrones upon which it rests, moving back and forth above the thrones of the months. From the 17th day of the month, Sivan, it descends until the month Thavan, and from the 17th of Thavan it ascends. When it draws near to the earth rejoices and brings forth fruit. When it withdraws, the earth becomes sorrowful, and trees and fruits cease to flourish. All this was measured with precise measurement of hours, and by wisdom a measure was fixed for the visible and the invisible. From the invisible he made all things visible, while he himself remains invisible. Thus I make this known to you, my children, and distribute these books to your descendants throughout all generations and among the nations who have the understanding to fear God. Let them receive these writings and cherish them more than food or earthly sweetness. Let them read and devote themselves to them. Those who do not understand the Lord, who do not fear God, who reject and refuse these writings, a terrible judgment awaits. Blessed is the one who bears their burden and carries them, for he shall be released on the day of the great judgment. Chapter 69. Enoch instructs his sons not to swear by heaven or earth, and reveals God's promise even from the womb. I swear to you, my children. Yet I swear not by any oath, neither by heaven nor by earth, nor by any other creature which God created. The Lord said, there is no oath in me, nor injustice, but truth. If truth is absent among men, let them speak only yes, yes, or no, no. I affirm to you, yes, yes, no man has ever existed who was not known before his mother's womb. Even beforehand, for each one, a place has been prepared for the repose of the soul, and a measure has been fixed, determining how much a man shall be tested in this world. Children, do not deceive yourselves, for a place has already been prepared for every human soul. Chapter 70. Of how no one born on earth remains hidden, nor any work concealed, and how we are commanded to live in humility, to endure injury, and not to harm widows or orphans. I have written down every man's work. No one born on earth remains hidden, and no deed remains concealed. I see all things. Therefore, my children, live out the number of your days in patience and humility, that you may inherit eternal life. For the sake of the Lord, endure every wound, every injury, every evil word and attack. If wrong is done to you, repay neither neighbor nor enemy. The Lord will repay on your behalf and will be your avenger on the day of the great judgment, so that vengeance may not take place among men. Whoever spends gold or silver for his brother's sake will receive abundant treasure in the world to come. Do no harm to widows, orphans, or strangers, lest the wrath of God come upon you. Chapter 71. Enoch instructs his sons not to store up treasures in the earth, but to give alms to the poor. Stretch out your hands to the poor according to your strength. Hide not your silver in the earth. Help the faithful man in affliction, and affliction will not overtake you in the time of your own trouble. Every grievous and cruel yoke that comes upon you, bear it for the sake of the Lord, and you will find your reward on the day of judgment. It is good to go in the morning at midday, and in the evening into the dwelling of the Lord, for the glory of your Creator. For every breathing thing glorifies Him, and every creature visible and invisible returns Him praise. Chapter 72. God instructs His faithful how they are to praise His name. Blessed is the man who opens his lips in praise of the God of Sabaoth and praises the Lord with his heart. Cursed is every man who opens his lips to bring contempt and slander upon his neighbor, for he brings God into contempt. Blessed is he who opens his lips in blessing and praise to God. Cursed is he before the Lord all the days of his life, who opens his lips to curse and revile. Blessed is he who blesses all the works of the Lord. Cursed is he who brings the Lord's creation into contempt. Blessed is he who looks down and raises up the fallen. Cursed is he who looks eagerly toward the destruction of what is not his. Blessed is he who keeps firm the foundations established by his fathers from the beginning. Cursed is he who perverts the decrees of his forefathers. Blessed is he who plants peace and love. Cursed is he who disturbs those who love their neighbors. Blessed is he who speaks with humble tongue and heart to all. Cursed is he who speaks peace with his tongue, while in his heart there is no peace but a sword. For all these things will be revealed in the weighing scales and in the books on the day of the great judgment. Chapter 73. Let us not say, Our Father is before God. He will stand forward for us on the day of judgment, for their father cannot help son, nor yet son father. And now, my children, do not say, Our Father is standing before God and is praying for our sins. For there is no helper of any man who has sinned. You see how I wrote all works of every man before his creation, all that is done amongst all men for all time, and none can tell or relate my handwriting, because the Lord sees all the imaginings of man, how they are vain, where they lie in the treasure houses of the heart. And now, my children, mark well all the words of your father that I tell you, lest you regret saying, Why did our father not tell us? Chapter 74. Enoch instructs his sons that they should hand the books to others also. At that time, not understanding this, let these books which I have given you be for an inheritance of your peace. Hand them to all who want them, and instruct them that they may see the Lord's very great and marvelous works. Chapter 75. Here Enoch shows his sons, telling them, With tears, my children, the hour has approached for me to go up onto heaven. Behold, the angels are standing before me. My children, behold, the day of my term, and the time have approached. For the angels who shall go with me are standing before me, and urge me to my departure from you. They are standing here on earth, awaiting what has been told them. For tomorrow I shall go up onto heaven, to the uppermost Jerusalem, to my eternal inheritance. Therefore I bid you do before the Lord's face all his good pleasure. Yet Enoch's exhortations transcend mere human relationships. He guides his sons back to the very dawn of humanity, to instill a deeper truth about power and stewardship. Enoch recounts that when the Lord created Adam and placed every living creature from the beasts of the field and the reptiles of the deep to the birds that soar through the heavens under our Father's dominion, he was not granting a license for tyranny or oppression. On the contrary, the act of Adam naming all things and being appointed ruler over the earth was a sacred trust. The Lord made all creatures humble and submissive to man as a divine test to see how we would treat those placed beneath our hand. And so, with the weight of this cosmic responsibility, Enoch delivered these profound instructions to his children, revealing the true place of man within the grand design of creation. Chapter 78. Enoch's instruction to his sons. Listen to me, my children, today. In those days, When the Lord came down to earth for Adam's sake and visited all his creatures which he created himself, after all these he created Adam. The Lord called all the beasts of the earth, all the reptiles, and all the birds that soar in the air, and brought them before the face of our father Adam. Adam gave names to all things living on earth. The Lord appointed him ruler over all, subjected all things under his hands, and made them silent and subdued, that they might be commanded by man, and be in subjection and obedience to him. Thus also the Lord created every man, Lord over all his possessions. The Lord will not judge a single soul of beast for man's sake, but he judges the souls of men in regard to their beasts in this world. For men have a special place, as every soul of man is accounted by number. So also beasts will not perish, nor all the souls of beasts which the Lord created until the great judgment. And they will accuse man if he has fed them poorly. Chapter 79. Enoch instructs his sons concerning beasts and purity. Whoever defiles the soul of beasts defiles his own soul. For man brings clean animals to make sacrifice for sin, that he may obtain healing for his soul. If they bring clean animals and birds for sacrifice, man finds healing. He heals his soul. All is given to you for food. Bind it by the 4 feet that is to make good the cure, and he heals his soul. But whoever kills a beast without cause wounds his own soul and defiles his own flesh. He who injures any beast in secret practices evil and defiles his own soul. Chapter 80. He who works the killing of a man's soul kills his own soul and destroys his own body. And there is no cure for him for all time. He who sets a snare for a man shall be caught in it himself, and there is no cure for him for all time. He who delivers a man into confinement, his retribution will not be lacking at the great judgment for all time. He who acts crookedly or speaks evil against any soul will not establish justice for himself for all time. Chapter 81. Enoch instructs his sons to keep themselves from injustice and to stretch forth their hands to the poor, giving a share of their labors. And now, my children, guard your hearts from every injustice which the Lord hates. Just as a man asks for his own soul from God, so let him act toward every living soul, for I know all things, how, in the time to come, many dwellings are prepared for men, good for the good and bad for the bad, without number. Blessed are those who enter the good houses, for in the bad houses there is no peace nor return. Hear, my children, small and great alike. When a man places a good thought in his heart and brings gifts from his labors, before the Lord's face yet, his hands did not truly labor for them. The Lord will turn his face away from the work of his hands, and he will not find the fruit of his labor. And if his hands did make it yet, his heart murmurs and does not cease from murmuring. He gains no advantage. Chapter 82. Of how it is fitting to bring one's gift with faith, because there is no repentance after death. Blessed is the man who in patience brings his gifts with faith before the Lord's face, for he will find forgiveness of sins. If he takes back his word before the appointed time, there is no repentance for him. And if the time passes, and he does not willingly fulfill what was promised, there is no repentance after death. Every work which a man performs before its proper time is deceit before men and sin before God. Chapter 83. Of how not to despise the poor, but to share with them equally, lest you be spoken against before God. When a man clothes the naked and feeds the hungry, he will find reward from God. But if his heart murmurs, he commits a double evil, the ruin of himself and of that which he gives, and he will find no reward for it. If his heart delights only in his own food, and his flesh in his own clothing, he commits contempt, and forfeits the endurance of poverty, and will not find reward for his good deeds. Every proud and boastful man is hateful to the Lord, and every false speech clothed in untruth will be cut down by the blade of the sword of death, and thrown into the fire, and shall burn for all time. Chapter 84. Of how the Lord called up Enoch, and how the people took counsel to go and kiss him at the place called Achuzan. When Enoch had spoken these words to his sons, all people both far and near heard that the Lord was calling Enoch. They took counsel together. Let us go and kiss Enoch. 2,000 men gathered and came to the place Achuzan, where Enoch was with his sons. The elders of the people, the whole assembly, came bowed down and began to kiss Enoch, saying to him, Our father Enoch, be blessed by the Lord, the eternal ruler. Bless now your sons and all the people, that we may be glorified today before your face. You shall be glorified before the Lord's face for all time. Since the Lord chose you above all men on earth and appointed you the writer of all his creation, visible and invisible, the Redeemer of the sins of man and the helper of your household. Chapter 85 of Enoch's instruction to his sons. And Enoch answered all his people, saying, Hear, my children. Before all creatures were created, the Lord created the visible and invisible things, as much time as there was and passed. Understand that after that, he created man in the likeness of his own form, and put into him eyes to see, ears to hear, a heart to reflect, and intellect with which to deliberate. The Lord saw all man's works, and created all his creatures. He divided time from time. He fixed the years from the years. He appointed the months from the months. He appointed the days, and of the days he appointed 7. In them he appointed the hours, and measured them exactly, that man might reflect on time, and count years, months, and hours, their alternation beginning and end, and that he might count his own life from beginning until death, reflect on his sin, and write down his works, whether bad or good. For no work is hidden before the Lord, so that every man might know his works, and never transgress his commandments, and keep my writings from generation to generation. When all creation, visible and invisible, as the Lord created it, shall come to an end, then every man will go to the great judgment. Then all time shall perish, and the years. From that moment there will be neither months, nor days, nor hours. They will be joined together, and will not be counted. There will be one eon, and all the righteous who escape the Lord's great judgment shall be gathered into the great aeon. For the righteous, the great eon will begin, and they shall live eternally. There will be neither labor, nor sickness, nor humiliation, nor anxiety, nor need, nor violence, nor night, nor darkness, but great light. They shall have a great indestructible wall, and a paradise bright and incorruptible, for all corruptible things shall pass away, and there will be eternal life. Chapter 86. Enoch instructs his sons and all the elders of the people how to walk with reverence before the Lord and serve him alone. And now, my children, keep your souls from all injustice, such as the Lord hates. Walk before his face with terror and trembling, and serve him alone. Bow down to the true God, not to dumb idols, but bow down to his image, and bring all just offerings before the Lord's face. The Lord hates what is unjust. The Lord sees all things. When a man takes thought in his heart, he counsels the intellects, and every thought is always before the Lord, who established the earth and placed all creatures upon it. If you look to heaven, the Lord is there. If you consider the depths of the sea and all beneath the earth, the Lord is there. The Lord created all things. Bow not to things made by man, leaving the Lord of all creation, because no work can remain hidden before the Lord's face. Walk, my children, in long-suffering meekness, honesty, endurance, grief, faith, and truth, in reliance on promises, in illness, in abuse, in wounds, in temptation, in nakedness, in deprivation, loving one another until you depart from this age of troubles and become inheritors of endless time. Blessed are the just, who shall escape the great judgment, for they shall shine forth more than the sun sevenfold. In this world, the 7th part is taken from all light darkness, food, enjoyment, sorrow, paradise, torture, fire, frost, and other things. He wrote all this down that you might read and understand. Chapter 87. The Lord sent darkness upon the earth and took Enoch up on high, and light returned. When Enoch had spoken to the people, the Lord sent darkness upon the earth. Darkness covered the men standing with Enoch, and they took Enoch up to the highest heaven where the Lord is. He received him and placed him before his face. The darkness departed from the earth, and light returned. The people saw and did not understand how Enoch had been taken. They glorified God and found a scroll on which was written, "The Invisible God," and all returned to their homes. The sons of Enoch hurried and erected an altar at the place called Achusan, from where Enoch had been taken up to heaven. They brought sacrificial oxen, summoned all the people, and offered sacrifice before the Lord's face. All the people, the elders, and the whole assembly came to the feast and brought gifts to the sons of Enoch. They held a great feast, rejoicing for 3 days, praising God who had given them such a sign through Enoch, who had found favor with him, and that they should hand it down to their sons from generation to generation, from age to age. Amen. Thus, the teachings of Enoch are not dry doctrines meant to confine humanity, but in truth, a supreme manual for refining the energy of the soul. He affirms a truth that every great religion would later echo: the journey toward the most radiant heavens is not built upon supernatural displays of power, but crystallized through the simplest choices in ordinary earthly life. When we choose to live righteously and sincerely, we are not merely conforming to a social standard. We are removing the false mask of the temporary self so that our frequency aligns with the pure light of truth. The goodness Enoch speaks of is not weakness. It is a form of boundless, inclusive power. When you extend your hand to help someone in distress, a silent transformation takes place within your spiritual structure. Your inner capacity expands beyond the limits of the physical body to hold the suffering of another. In that moment, you are learning how to embrace the universe itself. Understand this: each time we turn away from arrogance, each time we bow inwardly with respect toward a tree branch or honor a small living creature, we are breaking the heavy chains of selfishness and envy. The ego-centered self is the gravitational force that anchors the soul to the lower realms. Only when the heart becomes sufficiently pure and benevolent can the soul rise naturally, like a bubble ascending from the vast ocean of karmic weight. Sincerity in every vow and integrity in every action, especially in refusing exploitation, are how we preserve the wholeness of our own unbroken circle. A soul fractured by deception and self-gain will never accumulate the inner pressure required to pass through the membrane of the 10th dimension. Moral cultivation is therefore not a way to polish one's reputation before society. It is an internal revolution that prepares one for transformation. You cannot wear the garment of glory in the 10th heaven if beneath it remains a hardened and narrow heart. Purity of soul is the only passport, the only fuel capable of carrying you beyond every boundary of space and time back to the great origin. Yet as the final exhortations on sincerity and goodness came to an end, Enoch's time among humanity approached its final moments. He had fulfilled his mission as the bridge between heaven and earth. Then at that very instant, an unprecedented event unfolded, one that shook all who were present. The veil between dimensions opened once more, not for Enoch to gaze through, but to receive him into his true station. Enoch's end was not a grave beneath the soil, but a mysterious dissolution into light, marking the emergence of the most exalted being in the heavenly realm, Metatron, the Prince of the Presence. The mystical disappearance of Enoch. As the twilight of the 30th day descended, Enoch stood among his children and a vast multitude, all listening with reverence to his final teachings. Suddenly the air grew thick. An invisible pressure enveloped everything. The sky no longer bore the soft blue of evening, but ignited into a strange, brilliant silver white. According to ancient records, a cloud of light swirled down from the void, eclipsing the sun. From within that radiance, chariots of fire drawn by majestic beings far beyond the grasp of mortal eyes descended to the earth. There was no fear, only a breathtaking majesty. Enoch looked into the eyes of his sons one last time. A gaze not of parting, but of a destiny fulfilled. He stepped into the shimmering light. The moment his feet left the ground, the laws of physics seemed to shatter. Enoch's mortal frame began to undergo a profound transformation. His flesh melted into divine flames. His bones transmuted into streams of pure energy. His eyes were no longer human orbs, but became celestial stars sparkling amidst the midnight black. In that instant, Enoch was no longer a 365-year-old patriarch. He was becoming a multidimensional being. The veil between the heavens was torn asunder, and before the stunned gaze of thousands, Enoch was hoisted into the air, piercing through the clouds, transcending the atmosphere and vanishing into the infinite. He did not die. He was translated. As the radiance faded, the sky returned to its natural stillness, but Enoch was gone. In the most brilliant 10th heaven, the Most High anointed him with glory. Enoch was completely transformed into Metatron, the Prince of the Presence, the only entity permitted to sit near the throne of God. He became the keeper of all cosmic ciphers, the supreme scribe of the celestial realm, standing above all other archangels. Enoch's disappearance left behind a void of astonishment for humanity. Yet it also opened the gates to an eternal hope. It serves as proof humans are not merely slaves to the dust. If we cultivate enough sincerity and kindness, if we expand the capacity of our souls, the boundary between mortality and immortality becomes as thin as a single strand of hair. Enoch has departed, but the blueprint of his return remains etched into our very marrow, within our 33 vertebrae, and in every beat of the hearts that yearn for the light. Yet Enoch was not the only one to hold this key. If we look deeply into the flow of time, we realize that his journey was not an isolated event, but a real and attainable step on a ladder that other holy figures have quietly ascended. Those footprints did not disappear into the dust of history. They were preserved in the most sacred scriptures, outlining a pattern of beings who learned how to break the gravity of earthly dust in order to rise into light. They are the multidimensional travelers, living testimonies that Enoch's path was not an exception, but a universal law woven into the structure of reality. Elijah, master of fire and spatial transition. Within this lineage of multidimensional travelers, Elijah stands as one of the most vivid and powerful demonstrations of ascension. If Enoch walked with God in profound stillness, Elijah appears as a prophet of blazing dramatic manifestations of divine power. The event by the Jordan River was more than a religious episode. It was a moment that seemed to rupture familiar physical laws. As Elijah was passing his mantle to his disciple Elisha, space itself appeared to tear open. Scripture describes a chariot of fire and horses of fire appearing between them. A whirlwind arose, yet instead of destruction, it functioned like a transcendent force, lifting Elijah from the ground and carrying him beyond human sight. Here the symbol of fire becomes a key, fire fuel or dimensional energy. Through the lens of modern physics and theories of higher dimensions, bold questions emerge. The fire witnessed by the ancients may not have been ordinary combustion. It may have been the radiance of plasma or the bending of light as a dimensional gateway opened. Just as Enoch was enveloped in glory and transformed in essence, Elijah was immersed in a blazing luminosity. His disappearance within a whirlwind evokes the image of a rapid shift in vibrational frequency so swift that matter itself becomes invisible to ordinary perception. In Jewish mystical texts, such as the Zohar, Elijah is often regarded as a being of similar origin to Enoch. If Enoch ascended and became Metatron, Elijah, according to mystical tradition, was transformed into the archangel Sandalphon, the towering angel who reaches into the heavenly realm and carries the prayers of humanity upward. The parallel between Enoch's cloud of light and Elijah's chariot of fire reveals a shared pattern of ascension. First, the absolute refinement of consciousness. Both devoted their entire lives to purifying their will and remaining faithful to a sacred mission. Second, intervention from a higher dimension, a vehicle appearing as a bridge between realms. And finally, neither underwent biological death in the conventional sense. Instead, each made a leap from three-dimensional existence into a multi-dimensional being of light. Elijah did not depart to end. He departed to continue in another role. His later appearance on Mount Tabor alongside Moses and Jesus stands as a powerful affirmation the ladder Enoch ascended remains real. And Elijah preserved that burning step across the ages. From Elijah, the narrative moves naturally to another figure, Moses. Moses and the mystery of the empty grave. Moses, the leader who brought the Israelites out of Egypt, stands as a pillar of sacred history. Scripture records that he died on Mount Nebo. Yet one quiet and haunting detail remains. To this day, no one knows where his grave is. A leader who reshaped the destiny of a nation left no tomb for future generations to venerate. The mystery deepens in the Epistle of Jude, which speaks of a dispute between the archangel Michael and the devil concerning the body of Moses. Why would a physical body become the focus of supernatural contention? From an energetic and symbolic perspective, Moses' body, after 40 days and nights in the glory of the Creator on Mount Sinai, may no longer have been ordinary matter. Scripture recounts that when Moses descended the mountain, His face shone so brightly that the people could not look directly at him. This suggests the beginning of a process of transfiguration, a transformation of matter through divine radiance. The mystery of the hidden grave seems illuminated centuries later during the Transfiguration on Mount Tabor. There, Moses and Elijah appeared beside Jesus in glory. Moses did not appear as a shadow or memory, but in an exalted state of being where soul and luminous form were united. Moses represents the law. Elijah represents the prophets. Both transcended biological limitation to become living witnesses to the unfolding of the divine plan. The concealment of Moses' body may be understood not as punishment, but as transformation. Just as Enoch became Metatron, Moses appears to have been lifted beyond linear time to join the ranks of the highest watchers in their noblest sense. From this connection, a profound hypothesis emerges. Is it possible that a select group of beings, those who reached the highest purity of moral and intellectual refinement, were chosen to step outside the cycle of birth and death? Enoch became Metatron, the heavenly scribe. Elijah became the prophetic guardian of sacred mysteries. Moses became the living embodiment of eternal law. They are no longer separate individuals. They became intermediaries between the Creator and humanity, watchers in the most elevated and benevolent sense. Their story suggests that death may simply be a limitation of perception for souls not yet refined enough. When a soul becomes sufficiently light, sincere and benevolent, the gravity of time and space no longer binds it. At that point, a human being is no longer merely a resident confined to a planet, but becomes part of the multi-layered mechanism of the cosmos. A free traveler across dimensions, just as Enoch opened the way thousands of years ago. That freedom becomes possible only when we come to understand the original blueprint. Yet at the lower dimensional level, where humanity currently dwells, that blueprint often manifests in a form we call destiny. Those who have studied traditional fate calculation know that throughout history, prophecy and divination have often proven remarkably accurate. They do not merely outline a person's general life pattern. They can also foresee specific major events and pivotal turning points. Why is it possible to predict one's fate? How can the future be seen? The answer, though it may seem difficult to accept, is entirely logical. When viewed through the lens of multidimensional space-time, a human life has already been arranged. The entire course from birth to death unfolds according to a pre-existing script, and what we experience as life is the process of walking through that script. True sages are not miracle workers. They are individuals capable of perceiving beyond the veil of time, glimpsing the plot of the play that is already unfolding in another dimension. For this reason, the ancients maintained reverence for heaven and faith in the divine. They trusted destiny because they understood a fundamental principle. Life and death are determined by fate. Wealth and honor rest with heaven. And this principle extends beyond individual lives. Not only personal destiny, but the entire course of human society unfolds according to vast and overarching scripts. Destiny and the script of human life. If your life is like a film already written with a script, then the entire course of human society operates according to an even greater master script. Throughout history, sages and prophets have left behind what could be called advance reports about the future. In the East, 10 major prophetic works, from the Tuibei two-back pushing diagram to the Xiaobing song of the baked cake, have outlined with striking precision the rise and fall of dynasties over thousands of years. In the West, the prophecies in the centuries by Nostradamus and the Book of Revelation in the Bible have continued to astonish later generations with their uncanny fulfillments. Even more astonishing are predictions that align closely with lived reality. More than 600 years ago, in the Liu Bowen stele inscription, a great pandemic was described in detail, from the timing to the place of outbreak, a convergence that people today can examine for themselves. If events both small and large continue to unfold as foretold, we are compelled to ask a profound question. Has human history long since been arranged? Is this cycle of civilization being meticulously orchestrated by higher dimensional beings? And behind such arrangement, is there a supreme purpose that humanity has yet to fully grasp? Insights from the Mayan civilization. To search for answers, consider the legendary Mayan calendar. These ancient records reveal that humanity stands at a pivotal phase, a period of Earth renewal. According to Mayan calculations, from 3113 BCE to 2012 CE, the solar system completed a grand cycle lasting 5,125 years. This marked the moment when the Sun aligned with the intersection of the zodiacal plane and the galactic equator of the Milky Way. Following this alignment, the Earth entered a new energetic field, beginning a period of purification and profound transformation. We are not living in ordinary times. We stand at the threshold of a vast transition between an old era and a new era, between a worn-out civilization and an entirely new one. This is a moment when each individual faces a refinement, a selection process, to enter the opportunity of a new humanity, where cosmic codes may be fully unveiled. Edgar Cayce, Awakening from the East. As many know, Edgar Cayce became known as America's sleeping prophet. In trance states, he described events far beyond the understanding of his time. One of his most significant prophecies concerned the future of China. Cayce once stated, "One day China will become the cradle of Christianity applied in daily life. China will awaken." This message carries symbolic meaning. A cradle signifies a new birth, a beginning. Since Christianity has existed for millennia, Cayce's words suggest not an old religion, but the emergence of a renewed spiritual faith. A new value system arising in the East and spreading vitality across the globe. Remarkably, 5 centuries earlier, Nostradamus wrote in the Centuries, "A man from the East shall arise with the compassion of God. With his divine staff he shall awaken and redeem the world." Two great minds from different eras shared a vision of a sage emerging from the East. And it does not end there. If one woman commanded respect among American political circles through her prophetic insight, it was Jeane Dixon. She accurately foresaw events that shook the world, including the passing of President Franklin Roosevelt, the political defeat of Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy. With a record of astonishingly precise predictions, her final message before her passing in 1997 became a significant spiritual signal for the world. In her book, The Call to Glory, published in 1971, Jeane Dixon identified a specific milestone, the year 2020. She predicted that this would mark the outbreak of a great battle between good and evil. However, she described this not merely as a war of weapons and armies, but as a spiritual revolution accompanied by a severe moral decline. A time when people would grow indifferent and cruel. A time when, for the sake of money, individuals would dare to commit any wrongdoing. In the face of such painful realities, she portrayed humanity as undergoing a purification of faith, a painful cleansing that could manifest through pandemics or natural disasters. During this period, false intellectual authorities, corrupted values, and widespread deception would be exposed. The ultimate purpose of this harsh trial would be for human beings to rediscover their original goodness, for humanity to return to reverence for the Creator. When we reflect on the prophecies from the Maya to Jeane Dixon, a clear trajectory emerges. The world does not operate randomly. We are living through a large-scale process of refinement. The great pandemics, social upheavals, and the struggle between good and evil, spoken of by prophets, are in essence tests for every soul. If history is a predetermined script, then each of us stands as an actor facing a final choice: to remain immersed in outdated values, or to purify the heart and become part of a new humanity. Fortunately, in her final hours, rather than speaking of catastrophe, Jeane Dixon delivered a message filled with renewal. The hope of humanity lies in the East. She expressed firm conviction that in the distant East, a great sage would appear to carry out an unprecedented mission to transform the world. Yet the method would differ from all previous paths. He would not rely on political authority, military force, or financial power. His instrument would be wisdom and pure love. According to Dixon, this sage would bring forth a wisdom from the Creator insight transcending existing religious divisions. That wisdom would awaken the deepest goodness within humanity, enabling people to voluntarily release hatred and resolve ethnic and ideological conflicts that have endured for centuries. His mission would be to unite humanity into one whole, where love becomes the universal language. She believed his appearance would mark the end of a chaotic era and the dawn of a new age, a world founded upon morality and authentic faith. Jean Dixon's prophecy is not merely about the future, it serves as a call to the present. She suggested that the world would pass through severe trials and painful purification before the arrival of such a sage. The hope in the East signifies more than geography. It points to the revival of ancient Eastern spiritual values traditions that emphasize harmony between humanity and heaven and earth. As we observe the upheavals of today's world, her words resemble a beacon. No matter how dense the darkness may appear, awakening from the East represents a path for humanity to return to its sacred origin. Ancient India and Buddhism. The descent of the wheel-turning Holy King. When we look at the global prophetic landscape, we can trace a continuous thread stretching from west to east. If American prophets spoke of hope from the East, then the most ancient scriptures of India, written thousands of years ago, named that hope directly the wheel-turning Holy King, or Chakravartin. In the Vedas and in Buddhist scriptures, he is not merely described as a worldly monarch. He is honored as the King of Kings, the supreme sovereign, who governs the laws of the universe. The title wheel-turning refers to turning the Dharma wheel, restoring order and righteous law to the human world at a time of cosmic decline, often described as the end of an age. The most striking and distinctive aspect of the prophecy concerning the wheel-turning Holy King lies in the method by which he saves sentient beings. In earlier eras, those who sought enlightenment were required to leave behind family life, sever worldly ties, and enter monasteries or retreat into remote mountains. Yet when this Holy King descends, he opens a path unprecedented in history cultivation within ordinary society. He allows his disciples to remain in the midst of the world, fulfilling family responsibilities and professional duties, while still attaining the highest states of awakening through moral self-cultivation in daily life. They do not need to wear monastic robes or shave their heads. Instead, they refine their souls through sincerity and kindness expressed in the smallest actions. This detail aligns remarkably with what the sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce foresaw of faith lived in daily practice arising from the East. Two sources, separated by thousands of years and vast distances, converge upon the same reality: that in this era of great renewal, humanity will not redeem itself by escaping the world, but by purifying itself within it. His appearance is not characterized by rigid religious dogma, but by a large-scale moral awakening. When faith becomes integrated into the breath of everyday life, the boundary between the human realm and the heavenly realm gradually dissolves, just as the sages of old foretold regarding the coming age of a new humanity. Udumbara flowers, a luminous code from heaven. If the path of cultivation within ordinary society is the inner key by which human beings redeem themselves, then the universe has also sent a visible sign to awaken the world. That sign is the appearance of the Udumbara flower, known as the Heavenly Code. In the Lotus Sutra and in the ancient Buddhist lexicon, Huilin's Sounds and Meanings, the Udumbara is described not as an ordinary botanical species. It is portrayed as a sacred and auspicious blossom of extraordinary rarity. It is said to bloom only once every 3,000 years. Its flowering is regarded as a solemn yet silent proclamation that the wheel-turning Holy King has descended into the human realm. Remarkably, in 1997, the same year that the prophet Jean Dixon left her final message about hope from the East, an extraordinary event was reported. 24 Udumbara blossoms were discovered on the surface of a Buddha statue at Cheongye Temple in South Korea. From that moment forward, these delicate white flowers, as fine as silk threads, began appearing across the globe. They have been found on leaves, metal surfaces, stone, and even glass places, where no conventional plant can take root. Their ability to endure without soil or water has been viewed by many as a material sign of a higher energy at work, suggesting the presence of a sacred figure drawing near to humanity. Liu Bowen and the manifestation of Maitreya Buddha. Yet what form would this sacred figure assume upon entering the human world? An answer was embedded centuries ago by Liu Bowen, the brilliant strategist of the Ming Dynasty, renowned for his prophetic insight within the verses of the Two. Liu described a time when the world would reach its extreme end, an era in which human morality would decline to its lowest point. Chaotic forces would emerge, and sentient beings would be surrounded by suffering at the close of an age. In such darkness, when human strength proves insufficient, he foretold that only the appearance of the Supreme Holy Sovereign, the King of Kings, could restore cosmic balance. The crucial detail Liu revealed was the title this figure would bear. The Supreme Holy Sovereign would descend under the name Maitreya Buddha. In East Asian spiritual consciousness, Maitreya has long been known as the Buddha of the future, the one who embodies boundless compassion and whose smile dissolves suffering. The connection between the wheel-turning Holy King of India and Maitreya of China no longer appears coincidental. Rather, it reflects the convergence of different titles pointing toward one supreme being, the one who holds the key to purifying the world and guiding humanity into a new era. Thus, from the tiny white blossoms appearing upon metal and stone, to the prophetic inscriptions carved in ancient texts, all signs converge upon a single conclusion. The grand drama of history approaches its final act, and the greatest director has quietly stepped onto the stage to carry out the closing chapter of redemption. One being many titles. When we connect all the fragments from the Mayan calendar, the verses of Nostradamus and the final words of Jean Dixon to the ancient Buddhist scriptures and the prophetic verses of Liu Bowen, a striking realization emerges. The footprints of destiny point toward one single figure. Though described by different titles across cultures, the sage from the East, the wheel-turning Holy King Maitreya Buddha, or the Creator, each refers to the same supreme being. He does not appear to establish another aging religion burdened with ritual formality. He brings forth a great wisdom, capable of transforming the human soul from its deepest core at the very moment of great renewal, when humanity stands before the most severe refinement in its history. The Savior's sage insights from Liu Bowen. In the renowned prophetic text, Two, the master seer Liu Bowen left remarkably detailed clues regarding the descent of this holy figure. He wrote that Maitreya Buddha would traverse the layers of the cosmos and descend at the location known as the Eye of the Golden Rooster in China at the time of the world's final crisis. If one examines the map of China, its outline resembles a golden rooster, and the eye corresponds precisely to Jilin province. Liu Bowen further employed Chinese character decomposition to indicate that the sage's surname would be formed from the characters wood and sun, which combined to form the surname Li. He foretold that this figure would be born in the year of the rabbit. Remarkably, these details correspond to Mr. Li Hongji, the founder of Falun Dafa. He was born on May 13, 1951, the year of Xin Mao, known as the Year of the Rabbit, in Jilin Province, China. Falun Dafa was introduced publicly in May of 1992, coinciding with the beginning of the Earth renewal cycle referenced in Mayan tradition. The convergence extends beyond Eastern prophecy. Even in the final book of the Bible, the Book of Revelation, there appears to be a sign pointing toward the emergence of such a figure. Revelation chapter 7 verse 2 records a vision by the Apostle John. Then I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, the seal of God and the symbol of the fallen. This passage becomes especially significant when we consider the seal of the living God held by the angel. In many ancient traditions and spiritual interpretations, a seal signifies not merely authority, but an energetic emblem used to purify and redeem those chosen before a great tribulation. Some researchers have observed a symbolic parallel between this seal and the image of the fallen in Falun Dafa. The Falun symbol, integrating the Buddhist swastika and the Taoist taiji, represents a miniature cosmos, an energetic diagram associated with purification. Could the angel from the east carrying the seal, as described in Revelation, symbolically reflect the appearance of Master Li Hongji, who introduced Falun Dafa from the east as a means of restoring faith in goodness in humanity before the close of an age? King of Kings. Revelation also speaks of a supreme being who appears at the time of judgment, bearing the title King of Kings and Lord of Lords, as recorded in Revelation chapter 19, verse 16. This designation aligns with the Buddhist title King of Kings attributed to the wheel-turning Holy King, and with Liu Bowen's term Supreme Holy Sovereign. The convergence between Western scripture and Eastern prophecy concerning a supreme ruler arising from the East suggests a unified narrative of redemption transcending culture and time. Whether described as an angel, bearing God's seal, a sage from the East, or a master transmitting the law, the mission remains consistent to use ultimate truth to refine and renew humanity amid an age of turmoil. Falun Dafa, the formless great way amid the secular world. Unlike traditional concepts of spiritual cultivation, Falun Dafa does not establish religious institutions, does not build temples, and does not require its practitioners to withdraw from society. Its principal scripture, Juan Falun, presents a profound and striking concept, the formless great way. This is the complete realization of the prophecy concerning the wheel-turning Holy King attaining Buddhahood, while remaining within ordinary family life. Those who cultivate do not separate themselves from society. They remain fathers and mothers, engineers and doctors. They regard the very busyness of daily life, its responsibilities, and even its conflicts as the best cultivation field for refining their moral character. Instead of seeking tranquility in remote mountains or secluded valleys, they find inner peace amid the turbulence of the human world. But how does one maintain such inner stillness in the midst of constant change? The answer lies in a universal key, a spiritual standard established by this practice. The core foundation of Falun Dafa is encapsulated in 3 words: truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. These are not merely conventional moral principles. They are regarded as the highest characteristics of the universe itself, the fundamental qualities underlying every level of space and time. Truthfulness means living truthfully, speaking honestly, and returning to one's original pure nature. Compassion means benevolence, thinking of others before oneself, and responding with kindness, even in adversity. Forbearance means tolerance and steadfast endurance, the ability to remain peaceful and free of resentment under hardship. Taking truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance as the standard for self-refinement is the very process of energetic purification mentioned earlier in connection with Enoch. When a person aligns with the fundamental qualities of the universe, the meridians within the body are said to open, allowing the soul gradually to free itself from the gravity of selfishness and rise toward the light. It is precisely the combination of profound philosophy and simple practice that generated a powerful wave of transformation, reshaping entire communities. Because of its practicality and its deep moral influence, within only 7 short years after its public introduction in 1992, Falun Dafa became an unprecedented phenomenon in modern history. Hundreds of millions of people from all walks of life began to practice. Observers witnessed remarkable changes. Communities voluntarily maintaining public cleanliness, individuals once lost in wrongdoing, choosing reform, and fractured families rediscovering harmony. It was a quiet yet powerful moral resurgence, awakening the conscience of an entire nation. According to the natural law of higher-level energy, such light does not remain confined within national borders. Falun Dafa crossed linguistic and cultural barriers and spread to more than 100 countries. From bustling Western cities to remote Eastern villages, the 3 words truthfulness, compassion, forbearance have become a compass guiding millions of souls back to their authentic nature in the midst of Earth's great renewal. Yet the script of history includes severe trials. Liu Bowen foretold, "In that time all will know the 3 words, yet they will not accept them as true and may even insult them. Heaven weeps and spirits lament." This reflects the reality of our era. As truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance spread, some dismiss them, and others, misled by falsehoods, respond with ridicule. The divine beings, it is said, observe this with sorrow, knowing that a great tribulation draws near, while humanity remains absorbed in material illusions. According to prophetic traditions, the Creator has delayed the final moment again and again, patiently waiting for people to awaken and be saved. His disciples continue to clarify the truth, enduring persecution and imprisonment in order to awaken human conscience. The journey of Enoch, the mystery of the tree of life, and the prophecies concerning a redeeming sage all lead us to a single point of convergence choice. History may follow a grand script, yet each individual holds the freedom to choose their own role. Will we place our trust only in what the physical eye perceives? Chaos, doubt, and finite material existence? Or will we look with the eye of the soul and recognize the quiet light of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance, purifying the world? The door to a new era stands open. The Udumbara flowers have blossomed. The 3 sacred words have been spoken. Hope does not lie in some distant place. It lies in your awakening here and now. And if you wonder, how can we touch the celestial splendor of the heavens in the midst of this mortal world? How can we feel the pure energy of a forgotten civilization? There is an artistic bridge that has achieved just that, transforming the intangible into the tangible through music and dance. That is Shen Yun. The name Shen Yun carries a profound meaning, the beauty of divine beings dancing. This is not merely an entertainment performance. It is an extraordinary effort to revive 5,000 years of divinely inspired civilization. The artists of Shen Yun do not only train in master-level dance techniques, they also cultivate their inner character according to the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance, so that every movement and every note carries the energy of pure goodness and pure beauty. When the stage curtain rises, you will see the rebirth of heroic history gods descending to earth and the high moral values once mentioned by ancient prophets. Within the radiant light and melodious strains of Shen Yun, the boundary between heaven and earth seems to dissolve. It is a place where faith is sublimated into art, where the viewer's soul is comforted and awakened by a compassionate light coming from the distant east. Hearing this, many may wonder, why praise Chinese culture so highly? Why can an Eastern art program touch the hearts of Christians and the innocent souls of children alike? In reality, Shen Yun is not the culture of a political regime. It is the revival of universal values that existed long before modern national borders or religious divisions were formed. For those of the Christian faith, sitting in the Shen Yun Theater feels familiar. They find a profound resonance in the sight of flying angels, the battle between good and evil, and above all, an unwavering faith in the salvation of the Creator. Though the names may differ, the compassionate light and moral standards conveyed by the artists are the universal language of all people of faith. Many Christians have shared that they see in Shen Yun a beautiful spiritual preparation for the return of the Lord. For children, Shen Yun is a world of wonder and righteousness. In an age where entertainment is saturated with chaotic imagery and distorted values, Shen Yun offers them a visual baptism. The children watching are captivated not by flashy gimmicks, but because their innocent souls are sensitive to the energy of purity. They learn that true courage lies in forbearance, and that goodness will ultimately triumph over evil. Therefore, praising Shen Yun is not about praising a nation. It is about praising the divine nature within every human being. It is a place where an elderly Westerner, a Christian intellectual, or an Eastern child can all shed tears upon realizing that we truly share the same origin. Authentic art is the only way to dissolve all barriers leading humanity back into the arms of the Creator. Notably, behind this resounding success is the artistic and creative director, Mr. D.F., who is recognized as a genius in restoring lost spiritual treasures. With a grand vision, he not only leads thousands of artists, but also directly composes heart-stirring symphonies that perfectly blend Western instruments with Eastern melodies. Under his guidance, Shen Yun has become the gold standard for performing arts excellence, earning deep respect from experts and governments worldwide. To date, Shen Yun holds a patent for its interactive digital backdrop design. This technology allows artists to fly from the stage into the screen and back, blurring the line between illusion and reality. This breakthrough has received widespread acclaim from top global graphics and stage technology experts. Furthermore, every costume on stage is meticulously handmade based on thorough research into the attire of historical dynasties. These vibrant yet pure colors have won the troupe numerous awards in fashion and fine arts, creating an unforgettable visual feast. The reach of Shen Yun lies not only in awards, but in the transformation of the consciousness of those who experience it firsthand. At the Kennedy Center in early 2026, we witnessed tears and admiration from the most powerful and experienced individuals. The power of authentic art has been validated by political leaders. On January 9, 2026, Miss Brianne Nadeau, council member of the District of Columbia, sent a congratulatory letter for the troupe's 20-year journey of cultural revival. She expressed pride in supporting an art form that is not only creative, but also deeply rooted in humanity. Beyond that, even at the heart of American power, Shen Yun's messages have created a profound impact. On the afternoon of January 10th, White House official Mr. Scott Cronister, after enjoying the program, exclaimed, "Extremely excellent." For him, this was not just a performance, but a thought-provoking cultural experience that helps modern people understand the essence of a 5,000-year-old, divinely inspired culture, a precious heritage that was once nearly destroyed. He emphasized with deep feeling, understanding the history and culture of a people is key to understanding them. When art touches the most courageous hearts in the military, it creates a powerful resonance of faith. Mr. Scott Stewart, a regional commander of the United States Marine Corps Recruiting Command and a veteran officer with nearly 30 years of service, could not hide his emotion at the divine inner meaning of the show. He realized that despite coming from different cultures, the message of salvation and the day of returning to the heavenly kingdom of the Creator is entirely consistent with his own faith. He shared, "These divine messages are so beautiful. The music and dance help me understand Chinese culture more deeply, and it is meaningful to see such a similar spiritual connection between us. That is the answer to all questions. Truth and goodness have no borders." This same resonance was found in retired United States Army Colonel Victor Suarez. With top-tier biomedical management experience at the Department of Defense, he viewed the performance through a lens of integrity and humanity. He affirmed, "Treating others well and maintaining sincerity are the themes that run through the entire performance." At the same time, he reminded the world of the importance of understanding the truth of what is happening in the East, where righteousness continues to endure against evil. A retired United States Army Lieutenant Colonel who has seen Shen Yun 12 times from the front row remarked, "Humans were all created by the Creator, and we all need to return to the values of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance." These testimonials from top generals, officials, and intellectuals affirm an obvious truth. Because of these invaluable values and the endorsement of the most prestigious organizations, Shen Yun is not merely entertainment. It is an experience for us to cleanse the soul, a necessary spiritual preparation to step into the new era promised by the prophets. When the stage curtain closes, a new journey of awakening begins within the heart of every viewer because of its priceless values and the affirmation it has received from the most respected institutions. Shen Yun is not merely a performance to watch, it is an experience through which we can cleanse the soul. We are living in the final scenes of a grand script. The prophecies of Enoch, the Maya Jean Dixon, and Liu Bowen are gradually unfolding into reality. The door to a new era has opened. The Udumbara flowers have blossomed. The call of glory resounds through sacred music and divine dance. The choice rests with you. Open your heart to receive the light. Let goodness guide your path. Allow your divine nature to awaken today. The final signs and the great refinement. When we behold the splendor of Shen Yun or listen to the prophecies of sages and seers, there is a layer of reality humanity can no longer avoid confronting. It is the growing sense that a cycle is reaching its point of transition, and that this transition begins not in the sky, but in the human heart. Many ancient traditions describe such a period as the end of an age, a time of moral decline when the inner order of the individual falters, and that instability spreads outward into society. As a consequence, ancient prophecies and ominous celestial signs seem to be converging with increasing urgency, as though warning of an approaching era of upheaval. It began with a great pandemic in the year 2020. COVID-19 was not merely a medical crisis. It was a severe purification that paralyzed the globe and stripped away humanity's technological pride. The succession of variants that followed demonstrated the virus's relentless adaptation, while humanity was forced to relearn the fragility of collective life. During the same period, the world witnessed the outbreak of mpox across multiple nations, to such an extent that the Director General of the World Health Organization declared a public health emergency of international concern on July 23, 2022. According to official technical reports on May 11, 2023, that emergency status was lifted, yet medical surveillance and global warnings continued. This indicated that the era of epidemic cycles had become a long-term reality rather than a single passing event. At the same time, warnings about highly pathogenic avian influenza and the risk of cross-species transmission intensified, especially after cases of H5N1 infections linked to dairy cattle were recorded in the United States during the year 2024. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention continued issuing updated guidance for monitoring and risk mitigation. All of this reveals a sobering truth. The more humanity strives to overcome viruses through vaccines and medicine, the more these microbial entities seem to mutate with uncanny persistence. Are they merely biological phenomena, or do they reflect a deeper order at work? A refinement not only of the body, but of moral character. Perhaps this succession of diseases may be understood as a purification in the sense of a moral and spiritual test, compelling humanity to choose between kindness and panic, integrity and opportunism, solidarity and selfish gain. The decision rests with each individual. As disease became the background rhythm of the era, natural disasters followed like resounding alarm bells. Wildfire emerged as one of the most striking symbols, transforming not only landscapes, but the very color of the sky and the air cities breathe. Recall the Black Summer in Australia during the year 2020, when billions of living creatures perished and the heavens turned a haunting crimson. 2 years later, in January of 2022, the eruption of Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai was described by atmospheric scientists as generating shockwaves that circled the globe, a rare benchmark in modern atmospheric observation. In recent years, Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula entered a renewed phase of volcanic activity, with geological authorities issuing continuous updates that suggest a long-term awakening of the earth beneath. In the year 2023, vast plumes of smoke from Canadian wildfires drifted across borders into the United States, engulfing New York and turning one of the world's most modern cities into an apocalyptic landscape of dense orange haze. Even into the year 2025, fires continued to consume the Amazon rainforest and parts of Europe. The green lungs of the planet appeared torn and wounded. These were not merely wildfires. They symbolized a burning imbalance, as though the accumulated heat of human excess were manifesting in flame. Nor did the upheaval end there. When the ground itself can no longer be trusted, as stable refinement enters its most severe phase. In February of 2023, the magnitude 7.8 earthquake in Turkey and Syria revealed the fragility of human existence, tens of thousands of buildings reduced to rubble, and more than 50,000 lives lost within moments. Subsequent seismic events from Japan to Taiwan during the years 2024 and 2025 signaled persistent tremors along the Pacific Ring of Fire, accompanied by tsunami warnings. It was as if the deep structural veins of the Earth were shifting, forcing geological layers into reconfiguration. Floods and superstorms soon followed, sweeping away monuments to human pride. In Libya during the year 2023, Storm Daniel caused dam failures that obliterated entire coastal cities in a single night, carrying thousands into the sea. In Southeast Asia, throughout the years 2024 and 2025, Super Typhoon Yagi and other unprecedented storms unleashed destructive winds, landslides, and flash floods that reshaped mountain terrain itself. From advanced European cities to fortified subway systems in China between the years 2021 and 2024, so-called once-in-a-thousand-year rainfall events submerged infrastructure thought invulnerable. These events testified to a humbling reality. Even humanity's greatest technological achievements remained small before the forces of nature. Deep beneath the surface, geothermal forces surged as well. The submarine volcanic eruption in Tonga in 2022 sent atmospheric shockwaves around the planet, altering measurable temperature layers in the stratosphere. Now, in the year 2026, glowing rivers of lava continue to emerge in Iceland and from Mount Etna in Italy. The Earth itself appears as a living organism running a fever, expelling intense energy upward in order to restore equilibrium. But O travelers of SleepCodex, remain clear-minded enough to recognize this. The most dangerous sign does not lie in the trembling of tectonic plates, but in the collapse of morality, in the decay of the human heart. No matter how devastating natural disasters may be, they are only surface manifestations. The deeper root is the moral decline of humanity. What sorrow could be more painful than witnessing filial piety, the foundation of human ethics for thousands of years, slowly rotting away? We see gray-haired parents who spent a lifetime sacrificing for their children, only to be abandoned in their old age by the very flesh and blood they once nurtured. When children come to regard their parents as burdens, when ingratitude becomes normal, the roots of humanity itself begin to loosen. Even more heartbreaking, the sacred bond of motherhood no longer stands untouched. We see the painful reality of abortion, where lives not yet fully formed are ended amid irresponsibility and moral erosion. When a mother can cast aside her own unborn child, when paternal duty and marital faithfulness are treated as trivial and disposable, abandoned for selfish desire. How much warmth can this world possibly retain? In the vortex of material pursuit, the distance between people grows wider. We witness the wealthy becoming arrogant, measuring the worth of souls by money and scorning those who are weak. Yet on the other side, some among the poor, pressed by desperation, commit wrongdoing in order to survive, ignoring conscience in their struggle. And perhaps most frightening of all is indifference. We pass by one another's suffering like lifeless shadows on the street. One person collapses, 100 stand watching. A cry for help echoes out, answered only by the silence of glowing smartphone screens. Human beings are becoming isolated islands in an ocean of apathy. The ancients once warned, "Hell is empty, for the devils walk among men." We are living in an age in which the boundary between good and evil has been blurred to a terrifying degree. The moral values that protected humanity for thousands of years are now dismissed as outdated and obsolete. In their place, selfishness, deceit, hatred, and base desires are celebrated, cloaked in elegant language and labeled freedom. This is the spiritual war of which Jean Dixon once spoke. This is not merely climate change or social crisis. It is a refinement of souls. The universe is employing the harshest trials to discern who still upholds righteousness, who remains steadfast in goodness and purity amid a world saturated with falsehood. Nor does it stop there. Humanity is plunging itself into bottomless abysses of degeneration. We watch in shock as entire generations destroy themselves in the white haze of narcotics and chemical stimulants. When individuals seek transcendence through toxic illusions, they sever their connection to their pure soul, turning the body once a temple of life into ash. More disturbing still is the distortion of prostitution and promiscuity, where the human body is traded as a commodity of desire. When modesty is discarded, when chastity and dignity are scorned, humanity becomes like withered grass carried by the wind. Such corruption does not destroy merely one individual or one family. It spreads like a spiritual virus, eroding the moral foundation of society itself. In this era, the line between human and demon seems thinner than a thread. These behaviors unfold openly, even defended under the banner of personal freedom. Yet in truth, they are signs of profound moral disintegration, unmistakable evidence of a civilization approaching its end. The ancients taught that when heaven intends to destroy someone, it first drives them mad. Madness expressed through unrestrained desire and chemical intoxication. becomes the ticket that draws humanity closer to a great elimination. In a world filled with such dark snares, do you possess the courage to remain pure? Are you clear-minded enough to understand that only by returning to goodness, by preserving both body and soul in purity, can you receive divine protection in this hour of judgment? Every disaster since the year 2020, from plague to wildfire to catastrophic flood, has been a resounding alarm, striking the conscience of every individual. They signal that the script of the old era is reaching its conclusion. The great refinement is taking place within your thoughts, within your choices. Will you align yourself with the darkness of decay? Or will you step into the light of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance in order to remain secure through this great trial? Time is short, and all the signs stand before your eyes. Choose wisely the path that will determine your future. When we turn the pages of ancient texts, we often encounter mysterious phenomena that defy simple explanation. The recurring appearance of deities such as Nua Ho Yi or Fuxi at different points in time has long puzzled historians. Why does the same figure seem to emerge across dynasties separated by thousands of years? Why does a single event, such as Gong Gong striking his head against Mount Buzhou, appear in 5 or 7 different versions involving different rulers? In truth, the answer does not lie in confusion among the ancients, but in a profound reality. History is not a straight line, but a spiral in motion. Imagine the Earth as a vast stage, and each civilization as a play. When a civilization falls because of moral corruption, the stage is cleared for a new drama to begin. Figures such as Nua Fuxi or Shenong may not merely be the personal names of individuals, but roles or titles assumed by enlightened beings, descending to guide humanity during each phase of renewal. Just as a child must learn to walk and speak anew. In every lifetime, humanity in each new cycle must relearn how to tie knots, how to preserve fire, and how to revere the divine. The contradictions we perceive in ancient stories are fragments of memory preserved from different civilizations, recorded and woven together over time into a tapestry both mystical and layered. This repetition is not endless. It is governed by a strict standard morality. The universe functions like a living organism, and each civilization is a part of that greater body. When humanity upholds moral virtue, it remains connected to the divine, like cells receiving nourishment and direction from the brain. But when the human heart declines, when people pursue only personal desire and turn away from sacred values, they become like cancerous cells. Such cells sever their connection to the cosmic body, multiplying recklessly and forming tumors that destroy the surrounding environment. And as biological law dictates, when a tumor grows large enough to threaten the survival of the entire organism, a great surgery must take place. That is when catastrophe descends and a civilization is destroyed to make way for rebirth. The Bible recounts the great flood in the time of Noah, while Eastern tradition preserves the story of Yu the Great controlling the waters. In essence, these refer to the same epic, a moment when a magnificent civilization was erased. Consider Atlantis, the legendary kingdom said to possess power and technology far beyond our own. Yet no matter how advanced its science, no matter how powerful its machines, humanity remains small before the judgment of heaven. When morality collapses, technology becomes meaningless. Atlantis sank beneath the sea, leaving behind a lesson of immeasurable cost. Science cannot save a soul that has decayed. After each catastrophe, only a small number survive, like Noah's family in Scripture. They are not chosen for wealth or status, but for their goodness and faith in the divine. They become the seed of a new human lineage, protected to begin another cycle. When a new civilization dawns, the machines and advanced tools of the previous age are gone. Humanity must begin again from nothing, dwelling in caves, cultivating fields, living as in the Stone Age. Yet they are not alone in that wilderness. To help humanity endure and rebuild, higher beings once again descend. They take form as emperors, sages, or extraordinary individuals to guide the people. In the East, we speak of Fuxi Nua and Shenong, divine figures who taught the people how to weave nets, cultivate crops, and use medicinal herbs. In the West, we see Prometheus, who brought sacred fire to humanity and taught the arts of survival. Apollo transmitted music, medicine, and the arts, lifting the human spirit from primordial darkness. Hermes, the messenger of Olympus, taught writing and principles of commerce. Athena, goddess of wisdom, instructed humanity in olive cultivation and just governance. This is why such sacred figures appear again and again across cycles under different names. Whether east or west, they fulfill the same compassionate mission to lay moral and intellectual foundations for a new generation. These radiant divine deeds have blended into humanity's memory, becoming the once-upon-a-time stories we still tell, a reminder that heaven watches over us as long as we preserve goodness within our hearts. Not everything from prehistoric civilizations was erased. Amid the ruins, certain transcendent wisdom survived and entered our world as cosmic codes. In the East, this appears in the mysteries of the 8 trigrams, the Book of Changes, the River Diagram, and the Luo script. In the West, it emerges in the Golden Ratio, encoded in the Great Pyramids of Giza, or in the astonishing astronomical knowledge of the Maya and the Sumerians. Modern science, despite its advanced instruments, still cannot fully explain how ancient peoples possess such knowledge. In truth, this wisdom does not belong solely to this civilization. It is a preserved curriculum, intentionally left behind by higher beings, helping humanity shorten the distance back to universal truth. Every story that begins with the familiar phrase, "once upon a time," is not merely imagination. They are living fragments of memory from different cycles of civilization, reshaped through time. In the distant past, when the boundary between heaven and earth was not yet divided, humans lived alongside divine beings. Those divine manifestations were real history. Because they were too magnificent and extraordinary, later generations called them mythology. Now we stand in the final stretch of a historical cycle. Understand, this mythology is not fantasy, but the diary of the soul preserved across ages. The upheavals and refinement we witness today mark the conclusion of an outdated script. A new chapter, a more radiant era, is being prepared to begin. You are not alone, and your life is not an accident. Amid the turbulence of our times, amid the alarms sounded by natural disasters and moral decline, remember that no matter how dense the darkness may appear, it prepares the way for the most brilliant dawn. Hope does not reside in distant things. It lies in your choice today to choose kindness over hatred, sincerity over deceit, and compassion over indifference. May you possess a mind quiet enough to hear the call of the divine, a heart warm enough to feel the compassion of the Creator, and wisdom clear enough to step through the doorway of the new era. Thank you for walking this journey with SleepCodex. May you have a peaceful sleep, and when you awaken, may you find yourself renewed, brighter, kinder, and ready for the glorious future that awaits. Peace be with you and with this world. I look forward to meeting you again on the next journey of awakening.